Chapter 79. This is where Wan San excels. Man Boyu said vaguely, clearly not knowing the inside story. Shun Lian guessed that Wan San must have reached some sort of agreement with the 9 great families of the Central Plains. Wan San and the Gu Garden were able to remain standing for so long because they had the support of the 9 great families of the Central Plains. Northern Lands, Central Plains. The hub connecting the 2 places was the Gu Garden. Wan San, who controlled the Gu Garden, was, in a sense, the middleman between the Northern Lands and the Central Plains. The vast Northern Lands relied on the Gu Garden's connections to transport the Central Plains Gu and even restricted resources to the Northern Lands. The Northern Lands' aristocratic families and sects all had to give Wan San some face. Even Man Boyu was respectful when mentioning Wan San. He clearly felt that Wan San was superior to him. Wan San's influence was evident. Thus, it was not hard to understand why Man Boyu was so agitated when he heard that Shan Lian had saved Lu Rui. To be able to make Wan San owe you a favor, it was too precious. Wan Yong is fearless because he relies on Wan San's influence. In the entire Northern Lands, no one dares to offend Wan San. Shun Lian rubbed his chin, secretly pondering. While they were chatting, a brawny man suddenly came to report. Gang leader, something bad happened. For some reason, this brawny man was very panicked. His head was covered in cold sweat, and his face was as pale as paper. When he ran in, he staggered and almost fell down. What are you panicking for? Speak slowly. Man Boyu frowned, giving off a dignified aura as he shouted. The brawny man knelt down on one knee, wiping his cold sweat and saying in fear, Gang leader, Elder Shun, something bad happened. A demon came to Furong Street and started a massacre. 30 to 40 people have already died. That demon even ate 3 people. What? The man Boyu suddenly stood up, his face as dark as water. What kind of monster dares to break into Ronghua City and cause trouble? Monster? Shun Lian also narrowed his eyes slightly, a cold light shooting out from his eyes. It hasn't been confirmed yet. That demon's body is impervious to weapons. When weapons strike its body, sparks fly everywhere. Blades curl up and swords break, but they can't harm it at all. The brawny man said with a trembling voice. He was scared out of his wits, as if he was having a nightmare. He had seen the monster eat people with his own eyes, and it was dripping with blood. Bang! The man Boyu angrily slammed the table. How dare you? Quickly summon all the elders for a meeting. Before long, Kong Yu, Bian Chan Yu, Liang Qizhu, and Gong Sun Ji arrived one after another. The other elders were temporarily out and had not returned. Kong Yu looked dignified and said in a low voice, This monster's origin is unknown. It eats people in broad daylight and acts so rampant. It must have something to rely on. We can't lose momentum here. I will be the commander. Elder Bian, Elder Liang, Elder Gong Sun, and Elder Shun will assist from the side. What do you think? The man Boya nodded and said seriously, Ronghua City is New Kuan's base camp. This monster dares to kill people and eat people in front of us. This is Chi Luolua's provocation. It must be eliminated. Yes. Kong Yu and the other 4 people took the order and left. In less than 10 minutes, they rode their horses to the entrance of Furong Street. From afar, they could hear miserable howls and screams, one after another. Groups of people heard the sound and ran away. The whole street was in chaos. The people of New Kuan and the government officials were urgently evacuating the people. However, Furong Street was the busiest market street in Ronghua City. There were many people on the street, and it was difficult to evacuate them in a short time. Instead, there were many stampedes. Shun Lian's gaze flashed as he saw a huge black whirlpool enveloping Furong Street. The street is too chaotic, we can't go through it. Let's go up. Kong Yu suddenly jumped up from the horse and jumped onto the eaves, quickly moving forward. I'll go first. Bian Chan Yu took a look at Shun Lian. Her whole body was shrouded by the rays of the sun, and a charming rainbow-colored dancing dress appeared. She floated onto the eaves as if she was weightless. She followed closely behind Kong Yu. Oh, rainbow dress goo. Liang Qizhu smiled faintly. His wide sleeves suddenly swelled up and spewed out a powerful airflow, causing his entire body to almost fly into the sky. He was not at a disadvantage at all. Cloud sleeve goo hee hee. Gong Sunji laughed sarcastically and glanced at Shun Lian beside him, proudly saying, Elder Shun, I'll also go first. Below him, a thick mist suddenly gathered from thin air. Flowing bug goo? Forming cloud. The watery mist condensed into a cloud and carried Gong Sun Ji up into the sky. After a few quick leaps, he caught up with Kong Yu and the others. Compared to the others, Gong Sun Ji's move had the effect of showing off. Interesting. Shun Lian's eyes shone with a strange light. Today, he finally saw the methods of these elders. He slowly got down from the horse and stretched his body. He looked at the center of the black whirlpool and aimed at that direction. His legs slightly bent, and he suddenly jumped. Boom! The moment his body jumped, the ground collapsed like an explosion and formed a huge pit. Shun Lian soared into the sky like an arrow leaving the bow. He drew an arc in the sky, and in the blink of an eye, he overtook Kong Yu and the other three. He brushed past them with a gust of wind and quickly widened the distance between them. Oh my God! Kong Yu's old eyes opened wide. What kind of light body technique is this? So fast. Bian Chanyu and Liang Qizhu were dumbstruck. Oh my God! Gong Sunji, who was feeling proud, almost fell from the cloud. His hair stood on end, and his mouth was wide open like he ate a duck egg. They did not know that Shun Lian did not use any light body technique and only jumped. In the air, Shun Lian's pupils shrunk. In the center of the chaos, there was a tall figure wearing a black cloak. He grabbed a passerby and pulled him horizontally, lightly tearing him apart. Rip! The poor passerby was cut in half at the waist. His blood splattered all over the ground. He did not die immediately, but let out a shrill scream. The monster threw him on the ground and stepped on his head. Bang! A muffled sound. The man's head was instantly smashed like tofu. Red and white blood splashed everywhere. The monster dug out the man's heart, stuffed it into his mouth, and chewed it. Almost at the next moment, boom! The earth shook violently. Shun Lian landed in front of the monster. The violent impact caused a gust of wind that swept in all directions. The monster under the black cloak was blown by the gust of wind. The black cloak flew up and finally revealed its true appearance. Shun Lian squinted his eyes slightly. This monster was also in the form of a human and very close to a human. The difference between it and a human was that its body was covered with black scales. Its pupils were yellow and vertical. The monster stared coldly at Shun Lian. Its vertical pupils slowly tightened. Is human flesh delicious? Shun Lian grinned. The monster licked its bloody lips. Its tongue was full of barbs. It said in human language, "Your flesh should be more delicious, right?" It walked step by step towards Shun Lian. At this moment, "Hey, which monster is committing murder here?" Kong Yu roared. With a few leaps, he rushed over and landed beside Shun Lian. Almost at the same time, Liang Qizhu and Gong Sunji also arrived. Bian Chanyu stopped on a turret. He drew his purple bow and aimed at the monster with a shining arrow. Hee hee, Kong Yu, we meet again. The monster let out a few strange chuckles. He had actually recognized the deputy gang leader. Old demon, it's you. Kong Yu's expression changed drastically. He gasped. Liang Qizhu exclaimed, "The old demon of Black Wind Ridge." Gong Sunji's scalp turned numb. He took a step back in fright. His face was pale. Black Wind Ridge, the old demon. Shun Lian was greatly surprised. He could not help but blink. The Goo Poison Basin incident that happened in Snow Ridge City was a 3-day massacre by the monsters of Black Wind Ridge. Later, Family Lin ordered New Kuan to gather heroes to suppress Black Wind Ridge in order to avenge the humiliation. In the end, they achieved complete victory and even destroyed the nest of the Black Wind Ridge Demon King. Chapter 80. Kong Yu's throat was dry. After a moment of panic, he calmed down. Old demon, you escaped the Family Lin's attack on Black Wind Ridge last time. Why didn't you hide in the deep mountains to prolong your feeble existence? Why did you come here to die? The old demon sneered, hee hee. You bunch of animals overestimate yourselves. The one who came here to die is not me, but you. Kong Yu threatened. Family Lin's people will be here soon. Can you escape? Hearing this, the old demon raised his head and laughed. He was full of mockery. Last time, you surrounded Black Wind Ridge so tightly that not even a drop of water could pass through. Did you stop me? Today, with just the 5 of you, what can you do to me? Crack, crack, crack. His bones mutated. The old demon's human hands twisted. His fingers grew longer, and his green nails bent into the shape of fish hooks. They became huge, sharp claws. He glanced around coldly. Kong Yu, Liang Qizhu, and Gong Sun Ji looked as if they were facing a great enemy. Their expressions were solemn, and they held their breaths. The battle was about to start. The atmosphere was extremely tense. At this moment, what's the origin of this monster? Suddenly, Shun Lian asked in a light tone, breaking the tense atmosphere. You don't know the old demon? Gong Sun Ji was stunned. His expression was as if he was joking with him. Liang Qizhu could not help but look sideways. His expression was as if he was joking. The old demon who was about to attack also paused. He stared at Shun Lian. For some reason, Shun Lian's aura made the old demon very uncomfortable. It felt a little strange. Kong Yu's mouth twitched. He believed it. Shun Lian probably didn't know who the old demon was. Ever since he joined New Kun, he had been cultivating in seclusion and rarely showed himself. He was a martial arts fanatic and a genius. He was good at everything except for his lack of experience. Elder Shun, be careful. The old demon is the most difficult type of demon to kill. Its scales are incomparably hard and indestructible. It's also skilled in the art of moving through the earth and can escape at any time. The last time they attacked Black Wind Ridge, even with the help of the family Lin, the old demon still managed to escape by burrowing into the ground. When transforming into a human, the old demon's accompanying goo, rock spear goo, can create sharp spear-shaped rocks from the ground to attack the target. It is unpredictable and hard to guard against. The old demon wasn't the strongest monster in Black Wind Ridge, but he was the monster that killed the most people in the Battle of Black Wind Ridge, Kong Yu said coldly, his face full of bitterness. Oh, Shun Lian said indifferently. He somewhat understood why they were so afraid of the old demon. Then he slowly turned his head towards the old demon and said indifferently, It's not too late for you to escape now. You are courting death. The old demon's eyes opened wide, his pupils emitting traces of cold light as he charged over. Shocking thundergoo? Boom! The old demon had just moved when Kong Yu's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. The moment he jumped up like a great rock spreading its wings, lightning was already shooting out from his palm. Rumble! A bucket-thick lightning bolt struck out. The twisted lightning was like a tree branch collapsing, pouring down on the old demon's head. Just a mere lightning palm. The old demon sneered and stepped on the ground. Unknowingly, a layer of soil had appeared on the surface of his body. The lightning followed his body and poured into the ground like a flood. Kong Yu's mighty lightning strike was dissolved into nothingness just like that. Kong Yu was shocked. He had met his nemesis. Lightning countered Earth, but Earth countered lightning. No matter how strong your lightning was, once it scattered into the ground, it would have no power to speak of. Die! The old demon closed in. Impudent! Liang Qizhu roared and stepped forward. His sleeves suddenly became longer. The cuffs were more than a meter long, like the water sleeves of a Peking opera. Cloud sleeve goo? Flowing cloud iron sleeve. Whoosh! The soft water sleeves danced lightly and shone brightly as they whipped out, creating a whistling wind that carried a torrential might. The old demon raised his sharp claws and swept it, but with a loud bang, the seemingly unremarkable water sleeves were as hard as iron, causing his sharp claws to shake and return without any effect. Kiki! The old demon let out a strange cry. His pair of sharp claws flew in the air, creating dense claw shadows that enveloped the front. Liang Qizhu's pressure increased greatly. He waved his 2 water sleeves madly and fought with those claw shadows. The sharp claws and water sleeves were like divine weapons that bombarded each other, causing sparks and deafening sounds. For a moment, they were in a deadlock. Whoosh! At a certain moment, a sharp sound came from the air. A light arrow pierced through the air. Bien Chanyu made his move, using this deadlock opportunity to launch a sneak attack. However, Kiki, I've been waiting for you. The old demon's gaze flashed, and he sneered. His body suddenly sank, turning into a lump of black mist that drilled into the ground. The light arrow crashed onto the ground, creating a deep pit. Smoke and dust billowed, but there was no sign of the old demon in the pit. Bien Chanyu sighed inwardly and looked around, suddenly shouting, "Liang Qizhu, be careful!" A rock spear as thick as a thigh suddenly thrust out from the ground behind Liang Qizhu, aiming for her back. Liang Qizhu's scalp turned numb. A bone-piercing chill surged from his back. He could not turn around in time. Cloud sleeve goo? Flowing cloud, flying sleeve. In the blink of an eye, Liang Qizhu's right hand's water sleeve waved backwards like a flying cloud, immediately coiling around the rock spear that was stabbing towards his back. His body borrowed the force to charge forward, barely dodging the rock spear's sure-kill attack. Bam! 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 But rock spears rose from the ground one after another, chasing after Liang Qizhu. It was too much for the eyes to take in. Liang Qizhu was simply cursed. He fled pathetically. His pair of water sleeves moved left and right, either coiling or coiling around, borrowing the force to dodge. Suddenly, a rock spear approached from the side, stabbing towards Liang Qizhu's ribs. Liang Qizhu, who was already flustered, hurriedly responded, turning flowing cloud flying sleeve into flowing cloud iron sleeve, ruthlessly lashing out. With a loud bang, the rock spear was broken by the iron sleeve, but Liang Qizhu's body shook violently. The water sleeve was also twisted into a fried dough twist on the verge of collapsing. But the next moment, Liang Qizhu's expression changed greatly. Unknowingly, the old demon had drilled out of the ground. Moreover, it was right in front of Liang Qizhu. The old demon sneered sinisterly, remaining calm and unruffled, waiting for Liang Qizhu to jump over and have his heart and lungs dug out. Seeing this scene, Liang Qizhu's hair stood on end. Even worse, the old demon's position was coincidentally in Bien Chanyu's blind spot. She could not suppress it in the air. The situation was precarious. Splash at this moment. An illusory river appeared in midair, the river water pouring down violently, instantly submerging the old demon's heels. The old demon was stunned. This water flow had no offensive power at all. Just as he was bewildered, a loud shout rang out. "Old demon, take another thunder palm of mine." Kong Yu was ready to attack. As he laughed, a dazzling bolt of lightning blasted out from his palm, not towards the old demon, but towards the water flow. Crackle! The twisting lightning arc rolled in the water flow, rushing to the old demon's feet in a flash, climbing up his legs, and instantly engulfing his entire body. The old demon trembled a few times, groaning, black smoke curling up from his body, and part of his scales were charred black. Kong Yu and Gong Sun Ji worked together and coordinated with each other, finally injuring the old demon. A very good joint attack. Unfortunately, the old demon trembled, his yellow vertical pupils faintly turning blood red. He screamed sharply, "I am not afraid of lightning. Kong Yu, your thunderclap, goo cannot harm me." Kong Yu's expression was extremely solemn. Rock spear goo? Blooming lotus. The next moment, the old demon stomped his feet, and rock spears rose up from the ground. With him as the center, like a blooming lotus, they swept out in all directions. The rock spears formed quickly in the blink of an eye. It was as if these rock spears had been buried underground, and the mechanism also shot out. Kong Yu, Liang Qizhu, and Gong Sun Ji all retreated rapidly. Suddenly, Liang Qizhu screamed. The old demon flashed and appeared beside him, its sharp claws clamping onto his water sleeve, pulling him into the air. Liang Qizhu flipped in the air and was flung away. Liang Qizhu, crashed into a wall. The huge force caused him to crash through the wall. The wall did not collapse, but there was a huge hole. Liang Qizhu, Kong Yu shouted in shock. Seeing this, Gong Sun Ji's breathing stagnated, and he quickly formed a cloud under his feet. But he had just flown up when the old demon charged over, its sharp claws sweeping at his stomach. Gong Sun Ji had no choice but to jump off the cloud to dodge, but before he landed, the rock spears had already arrived. Puff! Chapter 81. Bian Chanyu landed lightly on the street with her rainbow dress fluttering in the wind, continuously drawing her bow. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. An arrow of light hit the top of the rock spear, and immediately, the rock spear that pierced Gong Sun Ji's thigh broke apart. At the same time, Kong Yu jumped up and caught the falling Gong Sun Ji. Once he landed, he quickly ran towards Liang Qizhu. The remaining light arrows were all shot towards the old demon. This guy was still somewhat afraid of Bian Chanyu's light arrows and immediately hit underground. Boom, 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 boom. The light arrows blasted the street full of holes. How could the old demon give up so easily? He hit underground and created rock spears that swept towards Bian Chanyu. Rainbow dress goo? Qingling. Bian Chanyu's body flashed with brilliance, and without using any strength, she lightly jumped onto the wall. Her hands did not stop firing light arrows, suppressing the old demon in the air so that he did not dare to show himself. At this time, Kong Yu brought away Gong Sun Ji and Liang Qizhu and released a whistling arrow into the air. With a boom, it exploded and immediately filled the sky with 3 colored lights. This was Nu Kuan's signal for help. After a chaotic battle that was too much for the eyes to take in, the old demon steadily gained the upper hand and continuously injured 2 elders. Kong Yu's thunderclap goo was also severely countered, and it was all thanks to Bian Chanyu that they were able to recover some of their chances of victory. However, Bian Chanyu's light arrows actually consumed a lot of primeval essence and could not be shot without limit. After shooting 20 light arrows, she was panting from exhaustion and could not shoot another one. A vice leader and 3 elders joined forces, but still could not do anything to the old demon. It could be said that they were completely defeated. Jijiji, the old demon, floated out of the ground like a ghost and swept his gaze, locking on to Shun Lian, who had not moved an inch. This person had been observing from the start and did not make a move, nor did he have any intention of escaping. The reason why Shun Lian did not make a move was because Kong Yu and the rest had made a move first. They understood each other and had worked together before. They could make use of every opportunity to launch a coordinated attack that was tight and smooth. If Shun Lian rashly made a move, he might disrupt their rhythm. In a battle, when many people work together to form a team, how well they coordinated was very important. If one person acted recklessly and could not keep up with the other's rhythm, everyone would be in a mess and the power would be greatly reduced. The effect might even be worse than if they worked alone. And the one who didn't cooperate, well, was naturally the pig teammate that everyone often talked about. After all, no one wanted a team member was a team member. Moreover, Kong Yu, Liang Qizhu, Gong Sun Ji, and Bian Chanyu, who was suppressing him in the air, had joined forces to attack him. They were very confident that they would win. Even if they couldn't kill eccentric Chu, they could at least drive him away. You did not seem, but the result made everyone's jaws drop. This old demon, compared to the time at Black Wind Ridge, he is much stronger. His rock spear goo should be silver rank 4. Kong Yu's face twitched, his expression showing deep shock. How to determine the strength of a demon? It was very simple. You just need to look at the rank of the demon's companion goo. The demon's companion goo was connected to the demon's aura and would evolve as the demon grew day by day. The companion goo relied on the demon's body. As long as the demon continued to grow stronger, the companion goo would evolve to a higher rank. Because of this, the companion goo's rank directly reflected the demon's strength. Generally speaking, a human goo master had to be at least 3 ranks higher than a demon goo master to have a chance of winning. That is to say, to be able to suppress the old demon, one had to be a silver rank 7 human goo master. In the whole of Nu Kuan, Only Man Boyu was a silver rank 8 Gu master, and only this leader could suppress the old demon. This was also the reason why Kong Yu sent out the signal for help. Of course, the rule of 3 ranks higher only applied to normal situations and differed from person to person. For example, if a person's body was as strong as a demon's, that would be a different matter. Or if a person's Gu's special effect was perfect, that would also be an exception. Taking Kong Yu as an example, his thunderclap Gu had only developed the special effect of lightning palm. Lightning palm was a young lightning with tyrannical attack power, but once it met a nemesis like the old demon, it would be unable to deal with it. Actually, Kong Yu's thunderclap Gu could also develop many kinds of lightning attacks, for example, in lightning. This lightning was very strange. It could directly penetrate into the body and damage the organs, and was very effective against a scaled demon like the old demon. There was also soul lightning, which specialized in attacking the soul. The target would feel dizzy and have a splitting headache, living a life worse than death, and could directly stun a human or a demon. Unfortunately, Kong Yu had been focusing on lightning palm these few years. His attack methods were too simple, and he could not do anything against the old demon. It was simply too depressing. Brother Shun, don't fight recklessly, just delay the old demon. The leader will be here soon. Kong Yu shouted. There was no other way now. He could only rely on Shun Lian to restrain the old demon. He felt extremely ashamed. During the meeting, he had called Shun Lian over and actually wanted him to share the credit. At that time, he had never thought that they would be facing the old demon, and that the old demon would be so powerful. Delay me. The old demon glanced at Kong Yu and sneered. Even the 4 of you can't delay me. What ability does he have? Shun Lian looked at Kong Yu, then looked at the old demon, narrowed his eyes slightly, and said indifferently, I told you to run just now, but you didn't. Now you can't escape even if you want to. The old demon's face twisted in anger, and he said ferociously, You're courting death. Roaring, he shot out like an arrow and rushed towards Shun Lian. He had not completely transformed into human form, and compared to using Gu to fight, he preferred to use his sharp claws to tear his prey to pieces. When he was close, the old demon suddenly saw Shun Lian's lips curl, and a strange smile appeared on his face. Good timing. In the next second, Shun Lian suddenly shot out, as fast as the wind, even faster than him, and kicked the old demon's abdomen. The huge force caused the old demon's body to tremble violently, as if he had been hit by a battering ram. His body flew back more than 10 meters, and his back fell to the ground, and he rolled a few times before stopping. The old demon held his stomach and groaned a few times. He raised his head, and his vertical pupils were blood red as he stared at Shun Lian. The world became deathly silent. Kong Yu stared blankly, and his mouth opened, but no words came out. Bien Chanyu's mind also went blank, and he felt that the situation had changed. Die! The old demon slammed the ground, and his primeval essence surged. Suddenly, a half-meter thick rock spear broke out of the ground and stabbed diagonally. Swoosh! Shun Lian stood firmly on the spot, unsheathed his sword, and slashed left and right with wind-chasing sword. Layers upon layers of sword shadows overlapped like rain, covering the front like a meat grinder. When the sharp tip of the rock spear came in contact with the sword shadows, it immediately collapsed and turned into gravel. Only then did Shun Lian slowly walk forward. The incoming rock spear could not withstand a single blow from him, and it quickly collapsed. He was unstoppable. What a powerful sword technique! The old demon narrowed his eyes. Looking at the endless sword light, he was even more convinced that this person was indeed strange and not simple. Jia! A fierce roar sounded. The old demon pressed his hands on the ground, and a black fog rolled around his body. Rock spears rose from the ground one after another, attacking Shun Lian from different angles. While the old demon was fiercely attacking, Shun Lian was even fiercer. Wind-chasing sword suddenly paused for a moment, and then moved again, releasing endless cold light. Stormy waves, sword technique, perilous waves. The sword dance was like a tidal wave. The wind-chasing sword suddenly shook, and countless chaotic sword shadows intertwined and turned into torrential waves. They were fierce and fearless, and their momentum was extremely great as they surged forward. Each layer was stronger than the previous one, and each wave was higher than the previous one. The waves surged and piled on top of each other, until they turned into a perilous wave that swept through the entire street. Boom, boom, boom. All the rock spears were destroyed, and the aftermath of the impact crushed the old demon, causing his face to change color, and he directly drilled into the ground. Where do you think you're going? Shun Lian leaped and landed where the old demon had disappeared. The moment he landed, he fiercely punched the ground. Boom. Chapter 82. Earthquake. The streets were torn apart like a spider web. Deep ravines spread out. The buildings on both sides collapsed due to the violent tremors. The majestic force of the punch tore apart the earth and destroyed the streets. It was incomparable. A large amount of smoke and dust rose up. Amidst the billowing smoke and the torn cracks, the old demon was shaken out. He had only burrowed half a meter into the ground when Shun Lian punched him. The tyrannical force penetrated the ground and poured onto his body, causing his chi and blood to churn. It was incomparably uncomfortable. Damn beast, what great strength! The old demon was speechless. He had never encountered a human with such terrifying strength. Was this still a human? Deep fear flashed through the old demon's eyes. His sword technique is too fast and sharp. It's airtight. My rock spear can't compare to his sword technique. In my human form, my scales are too thin and can't block his sharp sword. If that's the case, as he thought of this, the thick smoke and dust suddenly stirred. A figure flashed and appeared beside the old demon. Who else could it be but Shun Lian? I told you, you can't escape. Shun Lian grabbed the old demon's hair and smashed his head against the ground. Bang, bang, bang. He smashed him 7 or 8 times in a row. The old demon's scales were tough, so he wasn't injured. He just ate a mouthful of dirt. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. A mere beast dares to humiliate me like this. The old demon was furious and revealed a ferocious expression. As he let out an angry roar, his body suddenly changed. Starting from his arms, his body suddenly expanded. Seeing this, Shun Lian sneered. He swung his arm and swung the old demon up. Then, he swung a beam he had pulled out from the ruins of a collapsed building. Like a baseball, he sent the gradually growing old demon flying. Whoosh! The old demon was sent flying. He flew out of the smoke and dust area and into the sky. Not far away, Kong Yu and Bian Chanyu were nervously watching. Suddenly, their pupils shrank and their necks straightened. A moment ago, behind a wall, Liang Qizhu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, a bitter smile appearing on his face. Actually, his injuries weren't serious, but he was in a sorry state. What made him the most annoyed was, "My sleeves are dirty." This person was a clean freak, and he especially cherished his sleeves. He hurriedly took out a jade bottle and poured out some kind of liquid to clean it. Ioyo, beside him, Gongsun Ji covered his bleeding thigh and twitched in pain. Suddenly, Gongsun Ji saw the jade bottle in Liang Qizhu's hand. He opened his eyes and exclaimed, "Is that crystal dew?" The liquid secreted by crystal dew goo has the effect of purifying the soul, nourishing and healing, and is also very helpful in stopping bleeding. "Quickly give me some." Liang Qizhu hurriedly poured a few drops, then turned his head and said regretfully, "There is none left." Gongsun Ji was speechless. His lips twitched as he looked at that pair of wet sleeves. He had the urge to strangle Liang Qizhu to death. Right at this time, a loud explosion was heard, and a large amount of dust rose up. It was caused by Shun Lian's punch. These two were slightly further away and were hiding behind the wall, so they did not know what happened. Gongsun Ji's face was pale. He said nervously, "What is the situation? Such a huge commotion." Liang Qizhu waved his hand. "This commotion doesn't seem to be caused by the old demon. His vision isn't good. He wouldn't create such a large amount of dust to disturb himself." Hearing this, Gongsun Ji suddenly thought of something and said unhappily, This battle is so king useless. If I was the main attacker from the start, and you, Vice Chieftain Kong and Elder Bien assisted me, how would we end up in such a sorry state? Liang Qizhu asked in astonishment. What do you mean? Gongsun Ji said methodically. My flowing bug goo can release a mist to cover the surroundings, trapping the old demon in the mist and making him unable to see his own fingers. Next, I will lock onto the old demon's position. While you guys take turns to sneak attack this guy, it is possible to kill him. Liang Qizhu heard this and rolled his eyes, thinking, what were you doing earlier? Who doesn't know how to give advice after the fact? Gong Sunji knew what Liang Qizhu was thinking. He snorted angrily. When Vice Chieftain Kong was here, he was always the main attacker, and we cooperated. Who would have thought that his lightning palm would be completely countered by the old demon, causing us to be caught off guard and suffer a crushing defeat? When fighting against a demon, especially a powerful one, once you lose the initiative, you won't have a good ending. Gong Sun Ji said angrily, clearly feeling that this time's failure was because they were dragged down by Kong Gu, and Kong Gu had an unavoidable responsibility. Liang Qizhu frowned. You better not speak nonsense. The lightning palm's power is peerless. It has great destructive power towards most demons. These years, Vice Chieftain Kong has been the main attacker in every battle, and he has made great contributions time and time again. You have seen it with your own eyes. Gongsun Ji was speechless. This time's failure, in the end, was because everyone did not have a complete understanding of the old demon's abilities. Right at this time, a huge figure flew into the sky. The two looked up and their expressions changed. Isn't that the old demon? Gongsun Ji was extremely shocked. How did he fly into the sky? Does this guy have the ability to fly? This thought made his scalp tingle. Liang Qizhu was also dumbfounded, watching the old demon grow bigger and bigger in the sky, and finally completely revealed his original form. He said in surprise, the old demon didn't grow wings. How did he fly? While speaking, the old demon began to fall, and his body seemed to be out of control. It can't be. Liang Qizhu thought of something. His heart skipped a beat, and he couldn't help but swallow his saliva. It can't be what? Gongsun Ji asked in panic. Vice Chieftain Kong is useless. Elder Bien should also be exhausted. Who do you think is fighting the old demon now? Liang Qizhu said meaningfully. Gongsun Ji shuddered. Shun Lian. Liang Qizhu sucked in a breath of cold air, saying in shock, it's not the old demon that can fly. He was beaten into the sky by our elder Shun. Beaten into the sky. Gongsun Ji was completely stupefied. He couldn't believe it. This matter was a little beyond his imagination. At the next moment, with a loud bang, the old demon who had fallen to the ground was heavily injured, and suddenly flew into the sky again. Old demon, don't you know how to burrow into the ground? Let me see you burrow into the sky. Shun Lian's domineering laughter spread all over. Heavens, he really beat the old demon into the sky. Gongsun Ji's jaw dropped, his expression instantly becoming very interesting. Boundless strength, truly a monster. Liang Qizhu speechlessly shook his head, his expression incomparably shocked. Our Gu Master's body is only slightly stronger than normal people. Gongsun Ji felt this was inconceivable. How did he train his body? Liang Qizhu was deeply moved, sighing, Martial Path Gu can strengthen a person's body, but these wisdom-type Gu are extremely hard to evolve. The Gu Master needs to continuously learn and comprehend, and their brains must be good. Only those geniuses are suitable to evolve Martial Path Gu. Others are absolutely unable to do so. I can only say that our Elder Shun is such a genius, such a Martial Path genius. Furthermore, I heard that Elder Shun exchanged for the Withering Glory Gu at the accounting room. He should have fused with the body fusion-type Gu to increase his strength. Thus he has such divine strength. When a demon shows its true form, its strength is extremely great, its body is tyrannical, its scales have unparalleled defense, and after turning into human form, it can even use the power of the companion Gu. It can be said that demons fiercely suppress humans in all aspects, Their advantage is too great. Human goo masters have to be 3 levels stronger than demons to have any hope of defeating them. Our elder Shin's body is tyrannical like a demon's. His strength does not lose to a demon's. And adding on his incomparably sharp sword skills, he has extremely terrifying battle strength. Liang Qizhu repeatedly pondered, his face gradually showing envy. He couldn't help but reflect on himself, whether his goo master path had been wrong from the start. Chapter 83. The old demon was so annoyed. He fell down and was beaten into the sky. He fell down again and was beaten into the sky again. This cycle repeated more than 10 times. He was completely speechless. Finally, with a crack, the beam in Shun Lian's hand broke. The old demon bid farewell to the sky and landed on the ground. A muffled boom resounded. The huge body of the old demon, which was 6 or 7 meters tall, fell heavily on the ground. The old demon fell on his back and was confused. It took him a long time to stand up. Shun Lian looked at the old demon from head to toe. He looked like a crocodile. His legs were very thick, and he could stand up. His 2 front claws were relatively short. He looked a bit like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. His head was a crocodile's head, and his mouth opened to the back of his head. There were 3 rows of sharp fangs in his mouth. The most eye-catching part was the scales that covered his whole body. Pieces of black scales, which were like palm-sized turtle shells, covered every part of his body. It gave people a feeling that he was unbreakable. He had been beaten so many times, but there was no external injury. The old demon breathed heavily. 2 streams of white smoke came out of his nostrils. He looked at Shun Lian. You are definitely not a nobody. Tell me, which family or sect are you from? The old demon asked seriously. He didn't dare to look down on this human anymore. Shun Lian smiled and said mockingly, How about this? You answer 1 question of mine, and I'll answer 1 of yours. I'll go first. Why did you attack Furong Street in broad daylight? Who gave you the courage to do so? Even though the monsters were terrifying and tyrannical, attacking a big city in broad daylight was undoubtedly a stupid thing to do. A strange look flashed in the old demon's eyes. He was a little surprised. You really don't know? Shun Lian narrowed his eyes slightly. I heard that the family Lin and family Huang are in conflict. The family Lin is shrinking its forces to deal with the threat of family Huang. Family Lin couldn't even take care of himself. Now, Ronghua City had lost the protection of the aristocratic families. No matter what I do, no one from family Lin will come to my aid. Family Lin and New Kuan destroyed Blackwind Ridge and killed the old demon king. I can't afford to offend family Lin for now, but I can still cause trouble for family Lin. I'm here to kill and eat people. Do you think New Kuan can stop me? The old demon said sinisterly. Family Lin is the #1 aristocratic family in the Northlands. Family Huang, how dare they compete with family Lin? Shun Lian didn't understand the difference in strength between the aristocratic families. But if he thought like this, it shouldn't be wrong. Family Lin was the #1 aristocratic family. They had a strong foundation and stood for many years. How could they fall so easily? Family Huang naturally didn't dare to before. But ever since family Huang refined that goo, they became unstoppable. Family Lin is also very afraid of them. That goo? Shun Lian's expression changed slightly. Family Huang's bloodline goo is the zombie goo. Later, they found an extremely rare lifespan goo and secretly refined it into the infamous immortal goo. It allows people to have an immortal body. It's ferocious and terrifying. Right now, the Lin clan, no, the entire northern reaches, is in a precarious situation and is in imminent danger. Sadly, you animals don't even know anything. Hearing these secrets, Shun Lian's heart sank. Obviously, the upper-class forces were surging in the dark. New Kuan and the other lower-class forces were still in the dark. They thought the world was peaceful, but the monsters were the first to take action. Great turmoil is coming. Shun Lian's face was as calm as water. He held the chasing wind sword tightly. It's your turn to answer me. You. The old demon didn't finish his words. Suddenly, his hair stood on end. Every piece of scales on his body stood up. Mighty divine power. Shun Lian's killing intent appeared. His aura suddenly soared. An invisible divine power swept across the sky. Animal, you dare to trick me? Only now did the old demon realize that he had been tricked by Shen Lian. He was furious. The black fog around his body rolled violently, and he rushed out. You've completely angered me. I've decided. I'm going to slaughter the entire Ronghua city. The smoke and dust slowly dispersed, Kongyu. Bian Chanyu finally saw the scene clearly. The old demon showed his true form. His terrifying body was like a machine that was born to destroy and kill. I'll help him. Bian Chanyu drank a few mouthfuls of yuan water just now. His Zhen Yuan had recovered a little. Kongyu nodded. Only your light arrow can break the old demon's tortoise scales. Bian Chanyu looked left and right. She found a vantage point, and with a flash of her body, she nimbly left. Enraged, old eccentric Ho charged forward like a leopard, arriving in the blink of an eye. So fast. This old demon's strength is not as good as mine, but his speed is better than mine. Seeing this, Shen Lian's eyes flashed. His body suddenly turned into a series of afterimages, and he dodged. Go to hell. The moment Shen Lian dodged, the chasing wind sword shook violently. He raised it and pointed it forward. Then, a beam of sword light shot out. The 3-inch flying sword, which was as thin as a cicada's wing, spun at a high speed. Like a lightning bolt, it flew toward the old demon's chest. Puff! The 3-inch flying sword pierced through the old demon's chest and back. It flew forward for a while before it collapsed and dissipated. The old demon was stunned. He stopped abruptly and looked at his chest. His mind went blank. He was stunned. Bian Chanyu, who had just got into position, froze. His eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. It's broken, Kongyu exclaimed. A thigh-sized hole appeared in the old demon's chest. Blood was gushing out. Now, who's the animal? Shen Lian roared coldly and took advantage of the situation. I can't defeat this person. The old demon was frightened. He finally realized and ran away. This was what a monster was. He had strong vitality. Even though there was a hole in his chest, it wasn't a fatal wound. As long as he had time to breathe, he could heal. If it were a human, they would have died in despair. However, the old demon didn't despair. He quickly calmed down and chose to run. The old demon fled even faster. In an instant, he pulled away from Shen Lian. Shen Lian chased after him and sped up. Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, the old demon suddenly raised his head. 2 arrows of light suddenly descended and shot into his left and right shoulders. His forward momentum was messed up, and he staggered. 10 meters cruising. Shen Lian seized the opportunity and turned into a series of afterimages. He quickly approached the old demon. 20 meters, 18 meters, 16 meters. Overflow rain sword technique. 3-inch flying sword. With a shout, the sword light flashed and pierced through the old demon's crocodile head. Half of his head was turned blank. Animal, even so, the old demon still didn't die immediately. However, his heart was cold and he was terrified. Old demon, haha, you're finished. Kongyu rushed over with a few jumps. His thunder palm descended from the sky and landed on the old demon's crocodile head. With a crackling sound, the old demon fell down with smoke coming out of his body. At this moment, the black vortex that enveloped Furong Street was extremely dense. It slowly condensed and turned into a fist-sized calamity force. It flashed and entered between Shen Lian's eyebrows. Bewitching Demon Calamity Descend. Obtained 3,000 bewitching points. A strange voice resounded in Shen Lian's mind. It made him feel extremely happy. Light flickered on the interface, and the information changed. Calamity Goo, Bronze ranked level 9, Special Effect, Chaotic Vortex, Heart Demon Corruption, Avatar. Chapter 84. The man Boyu galloped over on his horse. The signal for help made him very anxious. He rushed all the way here, not daring to delay at all. He whipped the horses, but so hard that it almost broke. Whoosh! The horse braked suddenly and stopped in front of the ruins. Its front hooves were raised high. When man Boyu looked over, his expression changed drastically and he was stunned. Furong Street was in a terrible state. 1/3 of the buildings were destroyed. It was a mess. Smoke and dust were rising everywhere. The people were panicking and running for their lives. The scene was extremely tragic. Faction leader Bien Chanyu heard the commotion and rushed over. "Where's that demon?" The man Boyu was furious. His face was full of murderous intent. Who would have thought that such a tragedy would happen in the peaceful Ronghua city? Bien Chanyu's expression was a bit strange. He replied, "Faction leader, that demon is the old demon of the Black Wind Ridge. It came for revenge and has been killed." The old demon of the Black Wind Ridge. The man Boyu was shocked. He had a deep impression of the old demon. It could escape underground and come and go as it pleased. It was as difficult to deal with and kill as the River Demon clan. "Hey, you guys kill the old demon?" The man Boyu was slightly stunned, but he was suddenly overjoyed. Bien Chanyu's expression became even more strange. He wanted to say something, but stopped. He didn't know how to describe it. At this time, Kanyu walked over quickly and laughed heartily. "Faction leader, great news. We killed the old demon." "Ha!" It was only now that the man Boyu saw the old demon's corpse lying in the ruins. His eyes flashed and he was overjoyed. He clapped his hands and sighed. "Good, good. Getting rid of evil for the people. Getting rid of evil for the people." The death of one demon meant that hundreds and thousands of people would not be harmed. "How did you do it?" The man Boyu was very curious. Kanyu rambled on for a while and finally said, "Just like that, it's all thanks to younger brother Shun's efforts to turn the tide, turn the tide." The old demon was silver ranked level 4, but he was still killed by the elder Shun. The man Boyu's emotions surged as he was incomparably shocked. He knew that when Kong Yu first met the Shun Lian, he had not advanced to the silver rank yet. It was Kong Yu who gave him a human flower goo that allowed him to advance. In the blink of an eye, only half a month had passed. Shun Lian's strength had improved by leaps and bounds again. Not only was his strength greater, but he had also mastered a terrifying flying sword killer move. Genius. He's really... The man Boyu's eyes lit up. He was extremely excited. It's New Kuin's fortune to have a talent like Elder Shun. It's the fortune of the human race. Whoever could kill a monster would be a true hero. This was the most common value of New Kuin. The man Boyu was naturally the happiest person to have such a fierce general under his command. At this time, Shun Lian walked over slowly and bowed slightly. "Chief, the demon disaster has been resolved. However, I have another matter to report." His expression was somewhat serious. Seeing this, the man Boyu's smile faded. "Elder Shun, please speak." Shun Lian lowered his voice and told him about the battle between the Lin and Huang families that the old demon had mentioned. The man Boyu's face was filled with astonishment. He shook his head and said, "There was such a thing? We didn't receive any news about it." Saying this, his face turned gloomy. It was obvious that the entire New Kuin was kept in the dark by the family Lin. The reason might be that the family Lin did not want to cause panic and deliberately concealed it. Even the monsters know, but we don't. The darkened man Boyu was very dissatisfied with the family Lin's actions. If the family Lin had warned them in advance, the New Kuin would have been prepared and ready for battle. Perhaps today's tragedy would not have happened. So many people died. Kong Yu's brows furrowed into a knot when he heard this. He said worriedly, "If this is true, the entire northern land will be in turmoil. Without the protection and deterrence of the aristocratic families, the monsters will run amok. The consequences will be unimaginable." The man Boyu paced back and forth with a grave expression. "So what if the family Lin deliberately concealed it? So what if the family Lin lied to you?" He had no right to question or criticize him. This was the sorrow of being at the bottom. Even if you were cheated, you had to endure it. If you were harmed, it was your bad luck. There was nothing you could do. In front of a colossus like the Lin family, the New Kuin gang could be wiped out overnight. "Elder Shun, how do you think this matter should be handled?" The man Boyu suddenly wanted to hear the Shun Lian's opinion. Shun Lian asked in return. According to the usual practice, when such a tragic monster disaster occurs, shouldn't the New Kuin report it to the family Lin? The man Boyu nodded. Of course. He paused. Under normal circumstances, we only report it when we encounter monsters that we can't deal with. In other words, since the old demon had already been dealt with by them, there was no need to report it. Then this matter is simple. Shun Lian smiled gently. Gang leader, immediately report it to the family Lin. On the one hand, you can ask for a reward. On the other hand, you can say that the old demon misled the people in the city. See how the family Lin will react. The man Boyu's eyes lit up when he heard this. He praised. That's a good idea. Brilliant. No matter how he mentioned the battle between the Lin and Huang families, he would be accused of deliberately deceiving the family Lin. This might anger the family Lin, so it was best to borrow the mouth of a dead monster. This matter will be kept a secret for now. Only the four of us know about it. The man Boyu looked at Kong Yu and Bien Chan Yu. You two deal with the aftermath here. Elder Shun, come back with me first. Yes. The two horses rode side by side. The Shun Lian knew that the man Boyu had something to say to him, so he waited patiently. After a long time, the man Boyu seemed to have thought it over. He tilted his head and calmly said, Elder Shun, do you have something to say to me? The Shun Lian smiled and muttered, the family Lin is the #1 aristocratic family in the northern lands. They have a deep and strong foundation, and other aristocratic families can't compare to them. But this time, the family Lin might be in big trouble. Why do you think so? If the family Lin could easily deal with the family Huang, they wouldn't deliberately hide it from the new Kun. They're worried that we'll hear some rumors and change our minds. To be able to see a big clue from a small matter, this was what it meant to be meticulous. The man Boyu deeply agreed. He looked at the Shun Lian, his eyes full of admiration. He sighed, I hope we're just overthinking things. Otherwise, the northern lands will change. Demon disasters will continue, and the people will be plunged into misery and suffering. Even if we use some tricks to sound out the family Lin, we still might not get any definite information. The man Boyu finally got to the point. There's another way that might let us learn more about the inside story. The Shun Lian's gaze flickered. Wan San. The man Boyu smiled, but did not speak. The letter Nu Kuan sent to the family Lin received a reply the next day. The letter was full of praises. However, there was no mention of the battle between the Lin and Huang families. The probing ended in failure. The less information there was, the more guesses there were. The family Lin did not say anything, and instead caused people's imaginations to run wild, causing them to be suspicious. However, the family Lin did express something, sending people to deliver a batch of restricted-level resources as a reward for the meritorious people. The amount was not much, just one incomparable genius goo and 2 bottles of primeval water. In the man Boyu's study room, Kong Yu, Shun Lian, Bien Chan Yu, Liang Qizhu, and Gong Sun Ji were all present. The family Lin rewarded us for getting rid of the old demon, and specially sent a batch of resources. Other than that, we also obtained the rock spear goo from the old demon. Let's call everyone over and discuss how to distribute these gains. The man Boyu smiled as he looked at everyone. The few of them had different expressions. Gong Sunji's eyes were fervent, and he smiled, saying, It's good that there are rewards. Everyone can have a share. Liang Qizhu, who was drinking tea with his head lowered, rolled his eyes upon hearing this, speechlessly saying, Did you kill the old demon? What are you so excited about? Gong Sunji blushed with shame, saying angrily, I didn't contribute, but I still worked hard. Liang Qizhu snorted, and was about to mock him, when a man Boyu waved his hand, smiling. Elder Shun's contribution in killing the old demon cannot go unnoticed. The others also contributed, and should all be rewarded. Other than the family Lin's reward, I plan to take out a bottle of primeval water from the accounts room to reward everyone. Hearing this, Gong Sun Ji was overjoyed, and Liang Qizhu was also slightly moved. But thinking of the terror of the old demon, they knew that this reward was not easy to come by, and everyone was basking in Shun Lian's glory. Kong Yu suggested, Innate talent goo and rock spear goo should be given to Elder Shun. His contribution is the greatest. Bien Chan Yu had no objection. I agree. These two had personally witnessed how Shen Lian killed the old demon, and the shock in their hearts was unimaginable. Liang Qizhu also calmly accepted this result. Gong Sunji had a small knot in his heart. In his opinion, the four of them had first fought the old demon, and then Shen Lian had killed it, which was suspicious of them taking advantage of the situation. But, thinking of Shen Lian's immense strength and ferocity, he could not afford to offend him. He could only grit his teeth and accept it. Man Boyu smiled. Good. Then we will give Elder Shun one innate talent goo, one rock spear goo, and one bottle of primeval water. As for the other 2 bottles of primeval water, the 4 of you will split them equally. How about it? Thank you, gang leader. Everyone bowed. Liang Qizhu and Gong Sun Ji then took their leave. After they left, Man Boyu took out Family Lin's reply and handed it to Shun Lian for him to read. Shun Lian looked at it quietly. This is not a small matter. Kong Yu had already read the letter, and his expression was extremely solemn. I had people count the number of demon calamities that have occurred in various places, and there are indeed signs of an increase. Especially the few that have occurred recently. They're all in cities with a large population. Demons wantonly entering cities to harm people, this was not a good trend. Man Boyu nodded. Right now is the calm before the storm. The demons are also probing. Once they confirm that Family Lin does not have the strength to protect the various places, they will run rampant, and we do not have much time left. But there might be a change in the situation. After all, Family Lin has dominated the northern lands for so many years. Saying so, Man Boyu gave Shun Lian a deep look. I will meet with Wan Sandy tonight. All right, if Family Lin abandons us, does Nu Kuan have any other helpers? Shun Lian immediately understood and returned the letter, while changing the topic without leaving any trace. He was also considering the future. Man Boyu sighed and said with a headache, there are many friends in the pugilistic world, but only Gu masters can fight against demons. And the stronger a Gu master is, the less interested they are in wealth. The only things that can move them are limited resources. If we cannot give them enough benefits, who would be willing to risk their lives for us? Saying so, Man Boyu even felt some despair. When the northern lands really descend into chaos, Nu Kuan will not be able to affect the overall situation. The wisest thing we can do is to tighten our forces and preserve our strength, and wait for the upper-tier families to finish fighting. These words meant that Nu Kuan's ability was limited, and they could not do anything about it. Chapter 85. Shun Lian returned to his room with an inexplicable feeling of irritation. Once the demons in the north run amok, the big cities will suffer, and the small towns will suffer even more. Snow Ridge City will be in danger of being destroyed. Shun Lian thought of his father, second mother, Shun Xiaoshu, Chui Lan. These lively faces might turn into a pile of bones one night. The stronger he got, the more he felt the terror of demons. The old demon has not fully transformed into human form, but a silver rank 4 demon was able to defeat 4 experts from Nu Kuan. Even with the old demon restraining Kong Yu, Liang Qizhu is also silver rank 4, Gong Sun Ji is silver rank 3, and there's also Bian Chan Yu. The 3 of them together could not defeat the old demon. If I did not comprehend the 3-inch flying sword, this powerful killer move, I would not have been able to kill the old demon. The old demon acted alone, seeking his own death. But what if he had a group of demon companions and killed their way into the city? How many can I kill before I am exhausted? Demons, demons. Shun Lian slowly closed his eyes, allowing his emotions to fluctuate for a while before he calmed down. A moment later, Bai Ling reported, Young Master, Deacon Qian Sheng requests an audience. Invite him in. Shun Lian went to the office. A moment later, Qian Sheng quickly entered the office and bowed respectfully. Greetings, Elder Shun. Under the orders of the gang leader, I am here to deliver your rewards. Saying so, he presented a brocade box and 2 bottles of primeval water. According to your instructions, the rock spear goo has been exchanged for primeval water. In terms of quantity, I naturally gave you more. All the items are here. Please check them and sign for them. Shun Lian took a look and smiled with satisfaction. Thank you for your trouble, Deacon Qian. Qian Sheng, who had been keeping his head down, raised his head. His eyes flashed with awe as he said, Elder Shun, you killed the old demon, got rid of the evil for the people, and avenged the dead brothers in the gang. It's my honor to serve you. Shun Lian smiled and said, Bai Ling, see Manager Qian off for me. Watching Qian Sheng leave, Shun Lian rubbed his chin and pondered. This Qian Sheng was quite interesting. Miss Bai Ling, thank you for seeing me off. Outside the door, Qian Sheng quickly waved his hand with a smile on his face. Please go back. Bai Ling smiled and bowed, slightly before turning back. Qian Sheng slowly walked away with a smile on his face, thinking, the gang leader is getting old, and the 2 vice gang leaders are also nearing retirement. Among the 8 elders, Gong Sunji and the others are unable to make a name for themselves. Bian Chanyu is a woman, and it's hard for her to convince everyone. Liang Qizhu and Bu Linkong have some manners, but compared to this elder Shun, just the merit of killing the old demon alone surpasses them by a large margin. Asterisk, hashtag, hashtag. Better update faster. In the future, even if Elder Shun is not the gang leader, he will still be a person with authority in the gang. I will take the initiative to befriend Elder Shun now, and slowly but surely, there won't be a mistake. With a proud and astute smile, Qian Sheng strolled towards the 2nd floor. Shun Lian opened the brocade box. What entered his eyes was a phalange-shaped goo. The bone was sparkling and translucent, with a mesmerizing luster. This is the peerless genius goo. I heard this goo can not only raise a goo master's talent, but also make them smarter. Shun Lian's heart was filled with anticipation. He immediately took out a silver needle and pierced his finger, feeding it with his blood. As the blood dripped down, the phalange-shaped bone seemed to come alive. It also rapidly absorbed the surrounding blood like a sponge, and in a short while, the phalange-shaped bone was dyed red. Almost at the next moment, an intimate thought was transmitted into Shun Lian's mind, causing him to be slightly startled. The refinement succeeded. This was the first time Shun Lian refined a goo so smoothly. Even though innate goo were originally easy to refine, this was too fast. Shun Lian was cautious by nature and did not dare to be careless. He still called out the life-twisting goo and inspected it. There was no problem with the peerless genius goo. It seems this goo is fated to be with me. Shun Lian laughed happily, looking at the phalange-shaped bone that was gradually disappearing. The peerless genius goo, the effect of raising talent, is better than the manflower goo, but inferior to the earth flower goo. It is in between the two. I hope you can raise my talent by at least 1 level and help me advance to silver rank 3. After laughing, Shun Lian placed the peerless genius goo on his palm. Under the mental connection, the peerless genius goo wriggled, and with a whoosh, it started burning. It turned into a bone-gray colored flame, instantly enveloping Shun Lian's whole body. Shun Lian was shocked at first, but quickly calmed down. This flame does not harm people. Shun Lian did not feel any pain, and his clothes did not burn. He was bathed in the bone-gray flame, like a piece of firewood. The scene was indescribably fantastic. In a short while, wisps of black smoke came out of his body. Shun Lian suddenly felt that as the black smoke came out of his body was rapidly becoming stronger. Some parts, some details could be seen bulging or thinning at a speed visible to the naked eye. The bone-gray flame continued to burn for nearly an hour before extinguishing with a puff. Huff! Shun Lian's whole body was glowing. He took off his clothes and looked at his body. His skin was smooth and tender, and the scars from his previous injuries had all disappeared. Touching his muscles, one could feel the explosive strength hidden within. Soon, a familiar feeling of hunger attacked him. Ha! The peerless genius goo did not disappoint me. Shun Lian was overjoyed and quickly took out a primeval water bottle, pouring a cup and drinking it. Next, the surging natural primeval essence spread into his body. In his aperture, the Grandmaster goo was like an old monk meditating, expelling the old and taking in the new. The beautiful lady flapped her wings, and the colorful wings burst out with a strange light, rolling in waves. Near evening, Bai Ling lightly knocked on the door, saying, "Young master, it's time. Let's go." Shun Lian walked out, wearing a new set of clothes. He was in high spirits, and his gaze was clear. Seeing him, Bai Ling could not help but exclaim, "Young master, did you break through again?" "Oh, how do you know?" Shun Lian was surprised and frowned. "You can't tell, not by looking, but by feeling." Bai Ling's breathing stagnated. "You might not be able to feel it, but when I stand in front of you, I feel an extremely heavy pressure, as if you were a huge mountain pressing down on me." Shun Lian was stunned. Only now did he realize that his divine might was becoming more and more powerful. Each and every one of his actions brought about pressure on others. The silver rank 3 Grandmaster Gu has vast divine might, and the dragon heart Gu has dragon blood mystic yellow. With these two added together, my strength is unknowingly exposed, and it gives people a strong feeling. Thinking like this, Shun Lian felt something was wrong. He did not activate the Grandmaster Gu, nor did he use the Dragon Heart Gu. So where did the divine might come from? After all, Bai Ling was also a Gu master, and she was close to him. Without a trace of killing intent, even she could not withstand it. Shun Lian frowned, and his eyes flashed as he stared at the interface, thinking, "Calamity, Gu has an extra special effect, heaven and earth manifestation. Could it be related to this special effect?" Manifestation is called primordial spirit by Taoists and manifestation by Buddhists. They're all about the same thing, the soul. The soul and the body are inseparable, so there is the golden body of manifestation. Shun Lian pondered, this special effect must be related to the soul, and it might be a special effect that attacks the soul. I'll find someone to test it out later. Shun Lian's curiosity was aroused. However, attending the banquet was more important. With the old demon's incident, this one Samuel had many more meanings. Riding the carriage into Ronghua City and passing by Fu Rong Street, Shun Lian opened the window and took a look. The dilapidated street was beginning to be repaired, and the mood of the people was basically stabilized. The Yamen in New Kuan had the same statement. The one who hurt people was not a monster, but a crazy evil cultivator. He had been killed, and his head was hung at the entrance of the street for the people to vent their anger. "Evil cultivator, give me back my child, sob, sob, sob." What a sin! How can there be such a terrifying evil cultivator in the world? I heard that he eats people's hearts and drinks their blood. How can he be called an evil cultivator if he doesn't eat people's hearts? The old man has lived his whole life, and this is the first time he met such a lunatic, Sai. What bad luck! Among the discussions, there was great fear. The people of Ronghua City used to enjoy peace, almost living in a dream, but this time they still did not wake up. This is heaven's punishment, the punishment of Rinzhu to the people of the world. There was a different tone in the discussion. Only by submitting to Rinzhu's sect and believing in Rinzhu can you be saved. On the street, there were several swindlers wearing white cloaks, preaching some kind of doctrine. "Bai Ling, do you know what these people are doing?" Shun Lian frowned and asked. "Oh, they are from Rinzhu's sect. This sect doctrine is that the human race was created by Rinzhu, so the human race should believe in Rinzhu. Moreover, Rinzhu is not dead. He will return sooner or later and kill all the demons and monsters in the world, saving the people from suffering." Bai Ling knew a lot. When Rinzhu's sect was spread in the Central Plains, it was hated by the clans and sects of the Central Plains and was expelled. But the northern lands are filled with all kinds of people, and there are many hardships in the world. Thus it became a fertile land for them to develop and expand. Now, many people and even Gu masters believe in Rinzhu and submit to Rinzhu's sect. Rinzhu's sect? Humph, just a bunch of swindlers. Shun Lian snorted in disdain. From his atheist point of view, all religions were basically the same. As long as you believe in a certain God, you will get what you want, such as eternal life, ascending to heaven after death, obtaining 72 virgins, and so on. Relying on these deceptive things, they cheat the believers of their money and brainwash the believers to work hard without complaint. Maybe I can create a sect, and I will be the sect leader and bewitch the believers, I can definitely earn a lot of bewitchment points. Shun Lian had this idea long ago. Unknowingly, they arrived at one manor. Chapter 86. Shun Lian returned to his room with an inexplicable feeling of irritation. Once the demons in the north run amok, the big cities will suffer, and the small towns will suffer even more. Snow Ridge City will be in danger of being destroyed. Shun Lian thought of his father, second mother, Shun Xiaoshu, Chui Lan. These lively faces might turn into a pile of bones one night. The stronger he got, the more he felt the terror of demons. The old demon has not fully transformed into human form, but a silver rank 4 demon was able to defeat 4 experts from New Kun. Even with the old demon restraining Kong Yu, Liang Qizhu is also silver rank 4. Gong Sun Ji is silver rank 3, and there is also Bian Chanyu. The 3 of them together could not defeat the old demon. If I did not comprehend the 3-inch flying sword, this powerful killer move, I would not have been able to kill the old demon. The old demon acted alone, seeking his own death. But what if he had a group of demon companions and killed their way into the city? How many can I kill before I am exhausted? Demons, demons. Shun Lian slowly closed his eyes, allowing his emotions to fluctuate for a while before he calmed down. A moment later, Bai Ling reported, "Young master, Deacon Qian Sheng requests an audience. Invite him in." Shun Lian went to the office. A moment later, Qian Sheng quickly entered the office and bowed respectfully. "Greetings, Elder Shun. Under the orders of the gang leader, I am here to deliver your rewards." Saying so, he presented a brocade box and 2 bottles of primeval water. "According to your instructions, the rock spear goo has been exchanged for primeval water. In terms of quantity, I naturally gave you more. All the items are here. Please check them and sign for them." Shun Lian took a look and smiled with satisfaction. "Thank you for your trouble, Deacon Qian." Qian Sheng, who had been keeping his head down, raised his head. His eyes flashed with awe as he said, "Elder Shun, you killed the old demon, got rid of the evil for the people, and avenged the dead brothers in the gang. It's my honor to serve you." Shun Lian smiled and said, "Bai Ling, see manager Qian off for me." Watching Qian Sheng leave, Shun Lian rubbed his chin and pondered. This Qian Sheng was quite interesting. "Miss Bai Ling, thank you for seeing me off." Outside the door, Qian Sheng quickly waved his hand with a smile on his face. "Please go back." Bai Ling smiled and bowed slightly before turning back. Qian Sheng slowly walked away with a smile on his face, thinking, the gang leader is getting old, and the 2 vice gang leaders are also nearing retirement. Among the 8 elders, Gong Sun Ji and the others are unable to make a name for themselves. Bian Chanyu is a woman, and it's hard for her to convince the others. Liang Qizhu and Bu Lingkong have some manners, but compared to this elder Shun, just the merit of killing the old demon is enough to suppress them by a large margin. In the future, even if Elder Shun is not the gang leader, he will still be a person with authority in the gang. I'm taking the initiative to befriend Elder Shun now, and slowly but surely, there won't be a mistake. With a proud and shrewd smile, Qian Sheng strolled to the 2nd floor. Shun Lian opened the brocade box. What entered his eyes was a phalange-shaped goo. The bone was sparkling and translucent, shining with a mesmerizing luster. "This is the peerless genius goo. I heard this goo can not only raise a goo master's talent, but also make them smarter." Shun Lian was full of expectations. He took out a silver needle and pierced his finger, feeding it with his blood. As the blood dripped down, the phalange-shaped goo seemed to come alive. It was like a sponge that quickly absorbed the surrounding blood. Soon, the phalange-shaped goo was dyed red, turning into a bloody bone. Almost at the next moment, an intimate thought entered Shun Lian's mind, causing him to be slightly startled. The refinement succeeded. This was the first time Shun Lian refined a goo so smoothly. Even though innate goo were easy to refine, this was too fast. Shun Lian was cautious by nature and did not dare to be careless. He still summoned the life, twisting goo, and inspected it. There was no problem with the peerless genius goo. "It seems this goo is fated to be with me." Shun Lian laughed happily, looking at the phalange-shaped goo that was gradually disappearing. The peerless genius goo, the effect of raising talent, is better than the manflower goo, but inferior to the earthflower goo. I hope you can raise my talent by at least one level and help me advance to silver rank 3. After laughing, Shun Lian placed the peerless genius goo on his palm. He communicated with it in his mind, and the peerless genius goo wriggled. With a whoosh, it started burning, turning into a bone-gray flame that instantly enveloped Shun Lian, covering his whole body. Shun Lian was shocked at first, but quickly calmed down. This flame does not harm people. Shun Lian did not feel any pain, and his clothes did not burn. He was bathed in the bone-gray flame like a piece of firewood. The scene was indescribably fantastic. After a while, wisps of black smoke emerged from the surface of his body. Shun Lian suddenly felt that as the black smoke spread out from his body was rapidly becoming stronger. Some parts, some details could be seen bulging or thinning at a speed visible to the naked eye. The bone-gray flame continued to burn for close to an hour before extinguishing with a puff. Huff! Shun Lian's entire body was glowing. He took off his clothes and looked at his body. His skin was smooth and tender, and the scars from his previous injuries had all disappeared. Touching his muscles, one could feel the explosive strength hidden within. Soon, a familiar feeling of hunger attacked him. The peerless genius goo did not disappoint me. Shun Lian was overjoyed. He quickly took out a primeval water bottle, pouring a cup and drinking it. Next, the surging natural primeval essence spread into his body. In his aperture, the Grandmaster goo was like an old monk meditating, expelling the old and taking in the new. The beautiful lady flapped her wings, and the colorful wings emitted a strange light, causing waves of multicolored light to roll around. Near evening, Bai Ling lightly knocked on the door, saying, "Young master, it's time." Let's go." Shun Lian walked out, changed into a new set of clothes. He was in high spirits, and his gaze was clear. Seeing him, Bai Ling could not help but exclaim, "Young master, did you break through again?" "Oh, how do you know?" Shun Lian was surprised, frowning. "You can tell, not by looking but by feeling." Bai Ling's breathing stagnated. "You might not be able to feel it, but when I stand in front of you, I feel an extremely heavy pressure, as if you were a huge mountain pressing down on me." Shun Lian was stunned. He then realized that his divine might was getting stronger and stronger, and his every action brought pressure to others. The silver rank 3 Grandmaster goo has vast divine might, and the dragon heart goo has dragon blood mystic yellow. With these two added together, my strength is unknowingly exposed, and it gives people a strong feeling. Thinking like this, Shun Lian felt something was wrong. He did not activate the Grandmaster goo, nor did he use the dragon heart goo. So where did the divine might come from? After all, Bai Ling was also a goo master, and she was close to him. Without a trace of killing intent, even she could not withstand it. Shun Lian frowned and thought for a while. His eyes flashed as he stared at the interface, thinking, Calamity goo has an additional special effect, heaven and earth manifestation. Could it be related to this special effect? Manifestation is called primordial spirit by Taoists and manifestation by Buddhists. They're actually talking about the same thing, the soul. The soul and the body are inseparable, so there is the golden body of manifestation. Shun Lian pondered, this special effect was definitely related to the soul, and it might be a special effect of a soul attack. I'll find someone to try it later. Shun Lian's curiosity was aroused. However, going to the banquet was more important. With the old demon's matter, the Wansan's banquet had many more meanings. Riding the carriage into Ronghua City and passing by Fu Rong Street, Shun Lian opened the window and took a look. The dilapidated street was beginning to be repaired, and the mood of the people was basically stabilized. The Yamen and New Kuan had the same statement. The one who hurt people was not a monster, but a crazy, evil cultivator. He had been killed, and his head was hung at the entrance of the street for the people to vent their anger. Evil cultivator, give me back my child. My child, sob, sob, sob. Damn it, how can there be such a terrifying evil cultivator in the world? I heard that he eats people's hearts and drinks their blood. How can he be called an evil cultivator if he doesn't eat people's hearts? The old man has lived for a long time, and this is the first time he met such a lunatic, Sai. What bad luck. Among the discussions, there was great fear. The people of Ronghua City used to enjoy peace, almost living in a dream, but this time they still did not wake up. This is heaven's punishment, the punishment of Rinzhu to the people of the world. There was a different tone in the discussion. Only by submitting to Rinzhu's sect and believing in Rinzhu can you be saved. On the street, there were several swindlers wearing white cloaks, preaching some kind of doctrine. Bai Ling, do you know what these people are doing? Shun Lian asked with a frown. Oh, they are from Rinzhu's sect. The doctrine of this sect is that the human race was created by the human ancestor, so the human race should believe in the human ancestor. Moreover, the human ancestor is not dead, so the human ancestor will return sooner or later to slay all the demons and monsters in this world and save the people from suffering. Bai Ling knew a lot. When Rinzhu's sect was spread in the Central Plains, it was hated by the clans and sects of the Central Plains and was expelled. But the northern lands are filled with all kinds of people, and there are many hardships in the world. Thus it became a fertile land for them to develop and grow. Now, many people and even Gu masters believe in Rinzhu and submit to Rinzhu's sect. Rinzhu's sect, just a bunch of swindlers. Shun Lian snorted. From his atheist point of view, all religions were basically the same. As long as you believe in a God, you will get what you want, such as eternal life, ascending to heaven after death, and even getting 72 virgins. Relying on these deceptive things, they cheat the believers of their money and brainwash the believers into working hard without complaint. Maybe I can create a sect. I will be the sect leader and bewitch the believers. I will definitely earn a lot of bewitchment points. Shun Lian had this idea long ago. Chapter 87. Wan Yin was unmoved. Not knowing his trump cards doesn't mean we can't deal with him. Shun Lian's strength and sword skills have already been exposed. He definitely has a martial path Gu. For an offensive martial path Gu master like him, we can find other martial path Gu masters to suppress him, or use a curse-type Gu master to weaken his battle strength. Also, when Shun Lian fought with the Gue Yao, he exposed that he had a defensive-type Gu. It should be the Iron Jade Gu. My brother Wan Yong saw it with his own eyes. The water arrow shot by the Gue Yao did not injure Shun Lian. A layer of light that was neither iron nor jade appeared on his body, easily blocking the attack of the water arrow. As for the unknown parts, we can make a rough estimate. Take a look at this. Wan Yin waved his hand and a human face book appeared. The pages of the book flipped and stopped at a certain page. This is... Chao Chung looked at it, his expression changing. This is Shun Lian's spending record in the Gu Garden. All the signs show that he is very unfamiliar with the Gu Garden. He should have only known of its existence not long ago. Wan Yin's lip curled up, saying proudly, "Oh, what signs? Look at the records of his questions to the human face book. They're all common sense questions. For example, Shun Lian asked, Main Ascension Gu, Secondary Ascension Gu, what does that mean? That can't be. He doesn't even know such common knowledge." Chao Chung was stunned, his face filled with disbelief. My father actually lost to such a person. It can't be a disguise, right? Who would disguise themselves in the Gu Garden? Do they have nothing better to do? Wan Yin firmly believed in his judgment. Also, before Li Shuangyang led him to the mystic Gu area, Shun Lian did not even know of the existence of the mystic Gu area. Shun Lian also went to the mystic Gu area. Chao Chung frowned. He had never seen Shun Lian and did not know his appearance, but they might have met at some point in time. What mystic Gu did he find? Shun Lian's luck is not that good. He went there for many days and only got one heart-eating insect. It's nothing to worry about. Wan Yin pointed at a few lines of records. The main point is here. Shun Lian bought Dragon Heart Gu, Strong Root Gu, Tiger Guts Gu, Whale Breath Gu, and Withered Glory Gu. From this, it can be seen that his path as a Gu master is a battle type that seeks to strengthen his body. This is also the reason why his strength is so majestic. Dragon Heart Gu. Chao Chung held his breath. Many things that he couldn't figure out suddenly became clear at this moment. No wonder he must have refined the Dragon Heart Gu. The dragon heart goo was a very ancient goo. It was rumored that it could greatly increase a person's strength and had many other unknown abilities. Shun Lian's monstrous strength has long exceeded the normal range. So it was all thanks to the dragon heart goo. Chao Chang heaved a sigh of relief. There were some things that he couldn't figure out, and there would always be a knot in his heart. The fear of facing the unknown always made him feel very uncomfortable. Knowing so much and making ample preparations, there is nothing to worry about. Wan Yin smiled domineeringly and clapped her hands. Suddenly, a burst of light flashed behind her, and then two figures flashed out. Closed-distance teleportation. Chao Cheng squinted his eyes. These two were wearing black and white robes and were over 50 years old. Their faces were haggard and sinister. One of them had a ghostly pale complexion, while the other had a dark complexion. These two were naturally not hiding there. They came from a place not far away where he could see or hear Wan Yin's clap, and directly teleported over. They are. Chao Cheng's expression changed slightly as his heart palpitated. These two people's auras were extremely strange and somewhat unfathomable. This is Temple Lord Whitebeard. Wan Yin pointed at the pale complexion person and then turned to the dark complexion person. This is Temple Lord Blackbeard. Chao Cheng was astonished. Could they be the infamous demonic path goo masters, Black and Whitebeard? You have some eyesight. Temple Lord Whitebeard chuckled with a sharp voice. We brothers have not roamed the pugilistic world for a long time. To think there are still people who remember us. Chao Cheng clasped his hands behind his back and said in a deep voice, 7 years ago, you committed a monstrous crime in White River City. It was too numerous to record and made one's hair stand on end. Even today, New Kuan still has a bounty on you. These two villains' origins were not simple. They were originally poor Taoists in a Taoist temple in White River City, living a life of eating and waiting for death. However, they unexpectedly obtained the inheritance of a demonic goo master and cultivated silently, continuously advancing and even calling themselves temple lords. There were two most difficult obstacles for a goo master. One was the evolution goo, and the other was raising one's own talent. They did not have any channels to obtain restricted grade resources. During this period, to raise their own talent and evolution goo, they used bloody and cruel demonic methods and continued to harm people. Finally, they were exposed. After being exposed, the two decided to go all out and willfully slaughtered the innocent. In one night, they killed nearly 300 commoners and stole large amounts of flesh and blood essence before escaping and disappearing without a trace. But they had never expected that they would rely on Wan Yin and live peacefully until now under her cover. That case in White River City, it is not worth mentioning, not worth mentioning. Temple Lord Whitebeard waved his hand and laughed complacently. Wan Yin said, Temple Lord Whitebeard specializes in space, and his usage of teleportation goo is superb. Temple Lord Blackbeard specializes in poison path, and his 100 poison goo is incomparably terrifying. They will participate in this operation together with you. In addition, there is a hidden helper in the Wan Manor who possesses a strange curse-type goo. When the time comes, that person will also lend a hand and is mainly responsible for weakening Shun Lian's strength. No matter how strong a Shun Lian is or how high his sword skills are, under that person's curse, his vitality will be greatly damaged and his battle strength will be greatly reduced. Chao Cheng felt a chill run down his spine. Wan Yin had arranged everything, including him. What should we do exactly? You should know that making a move in the Wan Manor is no different from courting death. Chao Cheng frowned. The corners of Wan Yin's lips curled up, and she did not answer, only looking at Temple Lord Whitebeard. You don't have to worry about this. We have already made all the preparations. Temple Lord Whitebeard smiled sinisterly and took out a black pearl-like item. This is a treasure that I spent 3 years to create. It's called the Spatial Shroud. Once it's released, it will form an independent space that can envelop certain people and objects within and completely isolate them from the outside world. Wan Yin said, after the spatial cover is released, my father's retainers will all be isolated outside the spatial cover. At that time, there will be 4 of us inside the spatial cover, followed by Shun Lian, Lu Rui, and my father. Chao Cheng, you'll have a chance to fight Shin Lian. Use your divine eyes to control him and make him kill Lu Rui and my father by mistake. After that, you all will retreat while I will stand out and pressure Nu Kuan to kill Shin Lian. If my father dies in the hands of Shun Lian, Nu Kuan will definitely not dare to protect Shin Lian. Once Nu Kuan betrays Shun Lian, your chance will come. At that time, we will help you control Shun Lian again. According to your plan, control Shin Lian to kill Man Boyu and the others. Then, you will stand out to be the savior and reshuffle the cards to seize power. Wan Yin's plan was flawless. He smiled and said, "This is the only way. Everyone will think that Shun Lian was driven crazy by me and Nu Kuan and killed Man Boyu and the others. No one will notice his abnormal behavior. What do you think?" Chao Cheng's expression changed again and again. In the end, he was convinced. He could not help but be convinced. There was a huge loophole in his original plan, and Wan Yin had perfectly patched it up. What made him fearful was that this plan seemed to have started a long time ago, and his involvement with Shun Lian allowed Wan Yin to make a perfect adjustment. Wan Yin is hiding behind the scenes and controlling the situation, while I will openly attack Wan Manor. This way, Wan Yin would have a hold on him, and he would inevitably be toyed with by Wan Yin in the future. Not only do you want to obtain the Goo Garden, you also want to control me and Nu Kuan. What a vicious plan. Chao Cheng felt a chill in his heart, but he had to admit that this was an extremely good plan, so good that he could not reject it. Right? I remember that Wan Sani also has a spatial type Goo Master called Yumanchio. Does she have the ability to enter the spatial barrier? Chao Cheng's gaze flashed sharply. White-bearded Temple Lord proudly said, "You don't need to worry about this. Yumanchio is not in Ronghua City now. Even if she is, the spatial barrier that I spent 3 years to create is not something she can break." Chao Cheng understood. "I have one last question. How do we make Shin Lian, Lu Rui, and Wan San meet?" Chapter 88. Shin Lian got out of the carriage and looked up at the Wan residence in front of him. It was luxurious and imposing. The Wan residence was huge, even bigger than Disneyland. Its extravagance was outrageous. It was summer and the heat waves were strong. However, as soon as he entered the Wan residence, he could feel a cool breeze passing through the corridors of the buildings. It was very refreshing. Looking around, there were waterside pavilions and terraces, richly ornamented buildings, halls, and winding corridors. It was very luxurious. Everything in the courtyard was of great value, including the bluestones that paved the road. They were transported from Mount Zihua, which was thousands of miles away. The bluestones contained grains of purple gold. If one casually pried them off and smashed them into pieces, one could very well find a gold ingot inside. There was also the screen wall that stood in front of the inner courtyard. Not to mention that the floating dragon sculpture on was the unique work of that master. Just the decorations on it alone. The dragon's eyeballs were inlaid with large pearls that were a specialty of the South Sea. The floating clouds under the dragon's body were laid with snow-white quicksand that was a specialty of the West Sea. And the burning clouds above the dragon's head were embellished with beautiful flaming jade that was a specialty of the East Sea. The value of this screen wall was enough to make one have the impulse to rob it just by looking at it. Only the residence of the richest man in the north, Wan Sani, could have such a magnificent atmosphere. "Young Master Shun, this way please." The servant led the way. Shun Lian walked slowly. Suddenly, he was stunned. He looked at the sky in a certain direction and frowned. A huge black vortex was gradually forming. The black vortex was so large that it was on par with the calamity created by Old Monster Chew. In fact, it seemed to be expanding in size, making it even more powerful than Old Monster Chew. "What is that place?" Shun Lian remained calm and asked the servant with a smile. "Oh, that's the flower pavilion where Madame lives." The servant looked in the direction of Shun Lian's finger and quickly answered, "Madame Wan." "Yes." The servant blinked. Wan Sanya only had one madam, and that was Lu Rui. The madam he was talking about was naturally Madame Wan. There was no one else. Shun Lian fell into deep thought. What disaster did Lu Rui get involved in? Rubbing his chin, Shun Lian could not help but lick his tongue, revealing a hungry look. This disaster is still forming. If I go in and bewitch it, I will definitely get a lot of bewitching points. In order to deal with the upcoming chaos, Shun Lian needed a lot of bewitching points. This made him restless. By now, Shun Lian was already familiar with the use of Fate Worm. The two words playing with fate, according to its literal meaning, meant to play with fate, and by extension, to change the trajectory of other people's lives. What was the trajectory of a person's life? Life was a collection from a certain time to a certain death time. If this collection were to be broken down, it would be composed of one event unit after another. And, of course, the event unit, of course. For example, on a hot summer day, after playing basketball, you suddenly wanted to go swimming. After making this choice, a series of choices would follow, such as what swimsuit to wear, where to wear it, what transportation to take, who to go with, and so on. Finally, you got into the water and swam as you wished, but then your foot cramped and you drowned. That was the end of the trajectory of your life. Again and again, the choices would link up your entire life, forming a unique trajectory that belonged only to you. If this is your fate, if this is the end of your life, if this is your inevitable ending, then the Life Ripper Goo can change the direction of this trajectory, directly interfering with one of your choices and influencing the following series of choices, allowing you to have a completely new life trajectory. And bewitching people's hearts was the Fate Worm's way of changing the trajectory of one's life and playing with fate. The methods that have been proven were verbal bewitchment, action bewitchment, and indirect bewitchment. Shun Lian bewitched Shui Lan to raise a snake, and bewitched In Yun Han to attack Wan Yong. These were all verbal bewitchment completed purely by talking. Shun Lian did not say a word, and only used a stone to trigger a bloody battle between Big Blade Gang and Axe Gang. This was action bewitchment. Ruthlessly torturing Wan Yong, causing him to summon the Demon Claw, and causing the Demon Calamity to descend, could also be classified as this. As for indirect bewitchment, it covered a wide range. Take the old demon's attack on the city as an example. Shun Lian did not bewitch the old demon with words or actions to attack Furong Street, but he dealt with the old demon, saved many lives, and changed the fate of many people. His indirect influence was huge. Precisely because there were three types of bewitchment, Fate Worm and Calamity Worm were a perfect combination. Causing calamity to descend was Fate Worm. Resolving the danger of calamity was also Fate Worm. Playing in the human world, jumping out of the three realms and not within the five elements. They went all the way to the inner court garden. At the same time, the black whirlpool was also moving, coincidentally moving towards the inner court garden. The garden was filled with fragrance, and hundreds of flowers were competing in beauty. In the middle of the sea of flowers, there was a unique and elegant pavilion. Shun Lian walked to the pavilion, and from within the pavilion, a pleasantly surprised voice could be heard. Benefactor. Lu Rui lightly held her stomach, raising her head in anticipation. Shun Lian raised his head and looked at the sky. Above the pavilion, the black whirlpool was moving crazily, continuously descending. Strange, why is it that the closer I get to this place, the faster the calamity forms? Shun Lian was suspicious and swept his gaze across the pavilion. Other than Lu Rui, there was also an old man with white hair. This was undoubtedly Wan San. The others were all maids and retainers, and Sister Yu was nowhere to be seen. I can basically confirm that the source of calamity is Lu Rui. After I entered the Wan residence, she came to the garden from her residence, and the black whirlpool also moved here. Shun Lian inwardly thought. He stepped into the pavilion, bowed slightly, and said with a smile, Shun Lian greets Wan San and Madame Wan. Benefactor Shun, you are too polite. You should be the one to accept my bow. Wan San bowed solemnly without any hesitation. I dare not accept. Shun Lian hurriedly raised his hand. Wan San, you are too kind. You deserve it. Not to mention that Benefactor Shun saved my wife's life, Just the fact that you killed the sea serpent demon on the way river and saved the people is a great merit. Not to mention yesterday, you killed the old demon and saved the people of the city. No matter what, please accept my bow. Wan San bowed deeply, full of sincerity. Shun Lian could only smile. Seeing this, Lu Rui smiled and said, San Lang, quickly invite our benefactor in. Wan San stood up and laughed. Benefactor, please. Wan San, please. The three of them sat down one after another. Immediately, maids brought out, by way, delicacies, wine, and delicacies, filling the table. It was very sumptuous. The three maids poured wine for them. Of course, Lu Rui was pregnant and could not drink. She drank freshly squeezed fruit juice. Wan San raised his wine cup. Benefactor Shun, I propose a toast to you. Please. Shun Lian did not stand on ceremony and drank it in one gulp. Wan San praised. Benefactor Shun is indeed a forthright man. Rui often praises you as a peerless young master. Seeing you today, you are indeed impressive and peerless. Shun Lian smiled humbly. Third master and madam are too kind. I propose a toast to the two of you. I wish the two of you a long life together and have a child soon. One for each of them. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 dishes, Lu Rui could not help but ask, I heard that benefactor joined New Kuan and came to Ronghua City a long time ago. Why didn't you come to find me? I also heard that when you first came to Ronghua City, you lived in a very shabby house. Is that true? I was busy with many things. I couldn't leave and didn't come to visit you in time. Please don't blame me. As for the house, a real man walks the world with no thoughts and no worries. With the sky as a cover and the earth as a pallet, it's nothing, Shun Lian said calmly. Well said. Wan San slapped his thigh and was a little emotional. Back then, I was alone and poor. It was because of this that I was able to make a name for myself. Lu Rui smiled. Yes, benefactor, you are open-minded. I'm the one who is narrow-minded. I was wondering if you didn't come to find me, because you were worried that you might be blackmailing me for my kindness. Shun Lian raised his eyebrows. Lu Rui was a meticulous person. This was indeed one of the reasons. After all, he had already taken 3 million from Wan San. Shun Lian did not talk much on this topic. He smiled and changed the topic. He asked curiously, Third Master, how did you open up the Goo Garden? Chapter 89. Wan San could not help but sigh. To be exact, the one who created the Goo Garden was not me, but those aristocratic families in the Central Plains. Back then, the Central Plains met with a huge calamity. There was a shortage of food and money, and the people were in dire straits. I grabbed this opportunity and persuaded the aristocratic families to sell the Central Plains Goo to the north and squeeze out the north's wealth. They were indeed moved, and thus helped me create the Goo Garden. Thus, the Goo Garden does not belong to me alone. Many aristocratic families in the Central Plains have invested in it and take away a lot of dividends every year. So it was like this. In the end, benefits changed the rules. Shun Lian came to a realization, and after praising Wan San, he directed the topic to the aristocratic families, asking, We received news that Family Lin and Family Huang had an intense conflict, and the situation is getting out of hand. Have you heard of this? Wan San's smile faded, and he nodded solemnly. There is indeed such a matter. Family Huang refined the immortal Goo and the clan strength sword. They slaughtered their enemies, Wang and Zhao clans, and immediately alerted Family Lin. Oh, what is the situation now? During the confrontation, Family Lin has allied with many aristocratic families to suppress Family Huang. But Family Huang is not to be outdone, and has found many helpers, aggressively trying to pull Family Lin down from the #1 aristocratic family in the north. Both sides have been having small conflicts recently, and are still testing each other's bottom line. There is a possibility of reconciliation, but there is also a possibility of a large-scale bloody battle. Wan San said with a solemn expression. He clearly knew the situation in the north if these aristocratic families fought. Shun Lian said seriously, If there is any new news, I will have to trouble Third Master to inform me. No problem, no problem, Wan San said, and raised his wine cup, clinking it with Shun Lien's. Cheers! Shun Lien also raised his cup with a smile. He felt that Wan Sanyu was open-minded and did not resent him for mistreating Wan Yong. He understood the big picture and was someone worth befriending. While he was enjoying himself, Wan Sanyu waved his hand, and a familiar-looking old man walked over with 3 brocade boxes. Shun Lien took a look. This old man was the one who made the dragon heart goo bet with him. He specialized in strong root goo in the goo garden. Wan Sanyu smiled. Benefactor Shun ordered 3 goo from the goo garden. They are all here. This is a small token of my appreciation. Please accept it. This is too precious. Shun Lien was moved. Tiger guts goo, whale breath goo, and withered glory goo. These 3 goo were worth at least 2,400,000 taels. Wan Sanyu smiled and waved his hand, saying, "It's just 3 goo worms. It's the thought that counts. Don't think it's too little." Shun Lien did not know how to react. Lu Rui covered her mouth and chuckled. "Benefactor, you don't have to be so polite. This is a token of our sincerity. Please accept it. Then I shall accept your offer." Shun Lien accepted the goo of tiger's guts and goo of whale's breath. "I already have the withered glory goo. Please take it back." Not waiting for Wan Sanyu to say anything, the old man immediately took back the withered glory goo, showing a pained expression. Shun Lien laughed and patted his chest. "Old man, do you still remember our bet? Do you want to hear the dragon heart goo's heartbeat?" The old man's face twitched. He shook his head and sighed. "I lost the bet. I was unlucky. I admit defeat." Wan Sanyu asked suspiciously, "What are you guys doing?" Shun Lien explained the matter. Wan Sanyu laughed loudly and exposed the old man's trick, ridiculing. "Old dog, I remember that your dragon heart goo is in hibernation and cannot be refined. You even took it out to make a bet to cheat people of their money. Now look, you met Benefactor Shun, who has fate with the dragon heart goo. You made a fool of yourself." The old man's face turned red. He was embarrassed and angry. He stomped his feet and said, "Unlucky year, unlucky year." Shun Lien was surprised. "He is called Old Dog?" The old man shouted, "What old dog? Old man Wanda Huang. I will never change my name." Shun Lien was suspicious. "Wan? The Huang? Why does it sound like a dog's name?" "Oh, he is not a human. He is a demon, a wild yellow dog that gained intelligence. He was attacked by other demons and got injured. I saved him, and he has been staying by my side ever since. I can't chase him away." Wan Sanyu shook his head and looked at the old man, speechless. "Demon dog?" Shun Lien was shocked. He looked at the old man from head to toe. This demon had completely transformed. He looked exactly like a human. Wanda Huang stared and shouted, "Kid, what are you looking at? Have you never seen a demon before?" Shun Lien was surprised. His eyes shone, and he was speechless. "It is my first time seeing such a handsome demon like you." The old demon dog was speechless. Wan Sanyu smiled and said, "Benefactor Shun, I have a gift for you. Bring it up." 4 strong men carried a long box into the pavilion, with 2 carrying poles. It was unknown what was in the box. It was very heavy. The 4 men were sweating profusely. Wan Sanyu opened the box. A ray of cold light shot out from the box. Shun Lien could not help but squint his eyes. He focused his gaze, and his attention was instantly sucked away. Inside the box, there was a beast bone sword. The sword was about 1.75 meters long. The body of the sword and the hilt were one piece. The whole body was made from the bones of some kind of strange beast. The bones were covered with strange patterns. As if they were alive, they were still emitting a terrifying aura. This is an ancient sword. It is called Devour the Sky. It was made from the bones of a transformed demon. Although the transformed demon is dead, its bones still retain part of its abilities when it was alive. Other than being able to freely change its size, it also contains a terrifying power. Wan Sanyu exclaimed. He seemed to be full of admiration for the Devour the Sky. "Let me try." Shun Lien regained his spirit and picked up the Devour the Sky. It felt extremely heavy in his hand, close to 500 kilograms. But this weight was nothing to him. It was even more convenient. He pointed the sword that was almost as tall as him, and with a slight shake, a clear white sword mark was left in the air. It did not dissipate for a long time. Even ordinary people could see it. That sword mark was filled with a violent and sharp aura, as if it was tearing apart space and destroying the surroundings. Huh. Shan Lian activated the snow-silver primeval essence in the Grandmaster Gu aperture. A wisp of snow-silver primeval essence quickly gushed out, but the snow-silver primeval essence did not envelop the sword. Instead, it was suddenly absorbed by the Devour the Sky. Immediately, the patterns on the beast bone sword shone. Shan Lian felt as though his hand had grown with the blade of the sword. Streaks of snow-silver vital essence were swallowed by the sky-corroding sword. The blade of the sword expanded rapidly until it was about 10 feet long. It was as thin as a piece of paper and was almost transparent. Its sharpness was unparalleled. It became bigger. Shan Lian was shocked, but he soon understood something. His mind flashed, and the heaven-eroding sword started to shrink rapidly. It turned into a short sword, and it was as light as a feather in his hand. Grow, grow, grow. Shan Lian was overjoyed. With a thought, the Devour the Sky shrunk rapidly. Sure enough, it could change its size freely, whether it was big or small. It could change according to his will. This was not the end. As more snow-silver primeval essence was poured into the sword, the patterns on the Devour the Sky shone brilliantly, as if they were bursting with black lightning. Twisting lightning arcs coiled around the sword, crackling as they shot out in all directions. The black lightning arcs were terrifying, containing the power of destruction. Shan Lian pointed the sword at the flower pot in the pavilion. The flowers in the pot rapidly withered, turning into a pile of ashes. It was as if they were burned by lightning fire. Such powerful black lightning. Shan Lian was shocked. Do you like it? Wan Sanyi asked with a smile. Shan Lian nodded, saying decisively, Devour the Sky. It is too powerful. What a treasure. Haha. As long as Benefactor Shan likes it, the Devour the Sky has been hidden for many years. It has been in my collection. Now that I have met Benefactor Shan, a treasured sword finally has a master. Congratulations. Wan Sanyi clapped his hands and sighed. Chapter 90. Lu Rui said with a smile, Benefactor, Third Master hopes that you can use this sword to kill more demons and rid the world of evil. You can bless the world with peace. Shan Lian put away the sky eclipse sword and said solemnly with a solemn expression, Shan does not dare to boast about blessing the world with peace. However, if I encounter demons that harm others, I will kill them if I can. With the old demon dog by his side, Shan Lian was able to categorize the demons. The decision to kill a demon depended on whether the demon harmed others or not. The old dog demon belonged to the harmless category. Since he was part of the human race, he naturally could not be killed indiscriminately. Come, let's continue drinking. Drink to your heart's content. Wan Sanyi was in a good mood and could not help but drink greedily. Shan Lian was also overjoyed and followed the host's wishes. Wan Dahuang also pulled a stool over and sat down. He refused to leave and used his chopsticks to pick up the delicacies. He ate heartily and enjoyed every bite. Wan Sanyi scolded him several times but failed to chase him away. In the end, he had no choice but to let him do as he pleased. What a lazy dog! Greedy, lazy, gluttonous, and lustful. Sooner or later, I will castrate you, Wan Sanyi threatened. Wan Dahuang rolled his eyes and only cared about eating. He ignored Wan Sanyi. Oh, you dare to roll your eyes at me? Men, drag this heartless old dog into the kitchen. I want to eat dog meat. Everyone, do you want to stew or braise it? Wan Sanyi's beard fluttered wildly. When the maidservants and retainers saw this scene, they covered their mouths to stifle their laughter. They knew that Wan Sanyi was joking. Shan Lian watched the scene with interest. It was an eye-opener for him to see that humans and demons could coexist harmoniously as if they were family. The dog demon can only be considered an exception. The other demons have yet to lose their ferocity. They are all hegemons at the top of the food chain. In their eyes, humans are just livestock food. Shan Lian would not assume that other demons could coexist harmoniously with humans because of this. Some things would never change. Monsters were man-eaters. After a while, Shan Lian suddenly looked up at the sky. The black vortex that shrouded the sky had become extremely dense and was constantly descending, almost reaching the top of their heads. Something big is about to happen. Shun Lian had been paying attention to the surroundings, feeling more and more strange. This is the 10,000 residences. There are experts everywhere. How could there be a disaster? Man-made disaster? Demon calamity? Shun Lian was in the middle of it all. His heart was in turmoil. When he thought of this, the black vortex suddenly shook violently, giving people a sense of urgency, as if black clouds were pressing down on the city. "They're here." Shun Lian squinted his eyes. Suddenly, he felt a chill run from his tailbone to the back of his head. He stood up and turned around. His aura suddenly skyrocketed. A layer of light that was neither iron nor jade appeared around his body, covering the surface of his body. These actions were completed in an instant, in one smooth motion. The moment Shun Lian stood up, the maidservant who poured the wine for him, who was standing close behind him, suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood towards Shun Lian. Even though Shun Lian's reaction was extremely fast, and most of the blood was blocked by the light layer, a few drops of blood still splattered on his face. The droplets of blood quickly turned into strange blood-colored patterns, like long red snakes that crawled on his face. In the blink of an eye, they moved down his neck and spread throughout his body, gradually forming a net that spread out. Benefactor Shun, Lu Rui, and Third Lord One were shocked by the sudden turn of events. They saw the blood-colored patterns on Shun Lian's body rapidly slithering like snakes. They quickly spread all over his body. At first glance, it looked like countless red ribbons had wrapped around him. His face quickly turned pale. Shun Lian was shocked. He only felt the blood and qi in his body churning violently. His blood, qi, and the vital essence in his apertures were rapidly flowing out and being forcefully absorbed by the blood-color patterns that covered his body. In an instant, his face became extremely pale and his aura continued to weaken. He glared angrily at the maidservant. The maidservant covered her mouth. Her face was filled with fear and confusion, as if she did not know what was happening to her. Her face became paler and paler. Suddenly, she clutched her chest and pretended to be in pain. She slowly knelt on the ground. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Then, she lay on the ground, motionless. Her eyes rolled back, and her face was as white as ash. Dead, the sound of gasps could be heard in the world. The sudden death of the maidservant stunned everyone. "It's the blood curse goo." Wan Sanyi's eyes widened as he cried out in alarm. Almost in the next instant, strange ripples suddenly appeared in the space around the table. It was like the ripples of a lake, clear and crystalline. "Be careful, Third Master." One of the retainers was the first to discover the strange ripples. He reacted quickly and rushed toward Wan Sanyi. But with a bang, he seemed to have crashed into an invisible wall and was bounced back. The retainers turned pale with fright and rushed out in a flurry. In the end, they all crashed into the invisible wall and were bounced back. This was not the end. The invisible wall continued to expand and eventually enveloped the entire pavilion. As it expanded, the invisible wall continued to squeeze outwards, driving the maidservants and retainers out of the pavilion. After a while, only Wan San, Lu Rui, Wan Dahuang, Shun Lian, and the dead maidservant were left in the pavilion. "Third Master, Madam." The retainers outside were extremely shocked. They attacked the invisible wall with all their might, causing the space to ripple. But it was to no avail. Suddenly, silver light flashed and the wind howled. In the light, Chao Cheng, the white-bearded and black-bearded temple masters flashed out and appeared in the pavilion. Chao Cheng. Shun Lian's pupils shrunk as he instantly understood everything. I was wondering why the black whirlpool was so strange this time. So it was Chao Cheng's doing. This guy found a helper with a teleportation goo and directly teleported himself here. Shun Lian's expression was cold as he glanced at the dead maidservant. Thoughts flashed rapidly in his mind. Who was the target of this assassination? The source of the calamity is Lu Rui. Chao Cheng's target is her. But after I arrived, the calamity formed rapidly. What does this mean? Am I the catalyst for Chao Chang's plot against Lu Rui? Just as Shun Lian was feeling bewildered, Chao Cheng, who had teleported over, squinted his silver eyes and looked at the people inside the spatial barrier. When his gaze landed on the dead maidservant, he was slightly stunned. Wan Sang, Lu Rui, he naturally knew them. Wanda Huang, who had been in the goo garden for many years, and the wretched old man who specialized in selling strong root goo. He also had some impression of him. Then, the remaining person with the blood curse should be Shun Lian. Wan Yin said there was a curse-type goo master helper in charge of weakening Shun Lian's strength, but she did not reveal who this helper was. Chao Cheng looked at the dead maidservant and felt a chill in his heart. This maidservant probably did not even know how she died. Next, Chao Cheng suddenly stared at Shun Lian and asked sternly, "You are Shun Lian? Do you recognize me?" Shun Lian was about to speak when Wan San shouted angrily, "Chao Cheng, you have guts. You dare to come to Wan Manor and behave atrociously." Chao Cheng slightly bowed and said coldly, "Wan San, please forgive me. This Shun Lian harmed my Chao family. I have long wanted to take revenge on him, but this bastard has been holed up in New Kuan all this time. Today, I finally got my chance. Wan San, Lady Wan, don't worry. I'm only here for Shun Lian. I have no intention of harming you too. Please step aside and mind your own business." Chao Cheng followed Wan Yin's plan and played the role of an avenger. Lu Rui covered her stomach and stared angrily at Chao Cheng. Wan Sanni decisively protected Lu Rui and walked to the edge of the pavilion, not getting involved in the fight. Wan Huang also shrunk his neck and retreated. Chapter 91. Seeing this, Chao Cheng glanced at Shun Lian and sneered. "Shun Lian, you have been hit by a blood curse. How does it feel?" "It is indeed a blood curse." Shun Lian had heard of blood curses before. The power of blood curses came from the blood curse goo, a type of curse. The conditions to use a curse-type goo were very strict. To activate this type of goo, one had to obtain the target's physical information, hair, fingernails, blood, and so on. However, not all curse-type goo were like this. Some curse-type goo did not need to obtain the target's physical information, but used the user's physical information as a guide to directly release the curse. This type of curse-type goo was very convenient to use and could also be used without anyone noticing. The concealment was very good, and the killing power was huge. The person who was cursed could die suddenly without realizing it, or slowly die from the endless torment of illness. They might not even know that they had been cursed until the day they died. The downside was that it hurt the enemy, but also hurt the user. While cursing others, the goo master had to pay a price. Moreover, the stronger the power of the curse, the greater the price to pay. For example, this blood curse goo used one's own blood as a guide to curse the target through blood. The cursed person's blood energy, primeval essence, and other essences would be ruthlessly devoured. Those with weaker physiques would quickly be devoured until they were just skin and bones, dying on the spot. The price was that the blood curse goo would devour the goo master's own heart blood. The outcome could be imagined. The sudden death of the servant girl was a bloody example. Of course, no one would be willing to use their own life to curse others. Only a madman would use this method of mutual destruction. The ingenious part was that the goo master could place the blood curse goo into another person's body, feeding on their blood, and at some point, devouring their heart blood to release a powerful curse. Precisely because of this, the blood curse goo was a curse-type goo that used a person's life to curse another person. It was extremely sinister and could make one's hair stand on end, often being the favorite of some demonic goo masters. "To deal with me, you really put in a lot of effort." Shun Lian pretended to be nervous, his arms hanging down weakly, hiding the eroding heaven sword in his sleeves as he looked at Chao Cheng. "You're praising the wrong person. I'm not the one who cursed you." Chao Cheng's lips curled up in a mocking smile as he glanced to the side. "Come." Temple Master Blackbeard laughed and beckoned with his hand. Immediately after, a drop of blood flew out from the dead maid's chest and entered Monastery Master Blackbeard's sleeve in a flash. This blood curse goo was his. Ever since Third Master Wan sent out the invitation to Shen Lian, Wan Yin had found out through his informants in the residence which maidservant was in charge of serving Shen Lian. After confirming the candidate, the Blackbeard Temple Master secretly released the blood curse goo into the maidservant's body. No one would be able to detect it, and it was impossible to guard against it. The pitiful maid didn't even know that she had become a ticking time bomb. The white-bearded abbot shouted arrogantly, "Shen Lian, kill yourself. Don't be careless. Shen Lian's physique is too strong, and the power of the blood curse can only weaken his qi and blood by 60%. Monastery Master Blackbeard laughed sinisterly. "I'll give him some poison and weaken him further. Let's see how long he can last." His sleeves swayed slightly, and a pink mist spread out. It slowly condensed in his palm and turned into a delicate little red flower. "Go!" The little red flower flew out of Monastery Master Blackbeard's palm towards Shen Lian. Shen Lian flipped the table and used it as a shield. Plates and bowls fell to the ground with a crash. The little red flower brushed against the table and suddenly changed its direction, charging towards Lu Rui. At first glance, it looked like Shen Lian had used too much strength to flip the table. The little red flower was extremely fast and stopped in an instant. When it was 3 inches away from Lu Rui, a formless light film appeared and covered Lu Rui's body. Everyone knew that Lu Rui had unswerving loyalty goo. No external force could harm her. This formless light film was the protection formed by the power of the loyalty goo. The little red flower crashed into the formless light film and exploded into red powder. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The red powder adhered to the formless light film, and immediately, the formless light film seemed to be corroded by acid as it was quickly torn apart and a hole appeared. The protective barrier was broken. Lu Rui groaned and showed a pained expression. "Rui," seeing this, Wan Sanyi's expression changed. "Oh, I'm sorry. I accidentally injured Madame Wan." Monastery Master Blackbeard raised his chin and grinned, revealing 2 rows of black teeth. "Madame Wan," Chao Cheng cried out in shock and pointed at Shen Lian, scolding with righteous indignation. "Shen Lian, you are so vicious. You purposely threw the poisonous flower at Madame Wan. You are doing this to make Wan Sanyi vent his anger on us. In order to survive, you are really willing to do anything." Chao Cheng gritted his teeth and said righteously, "That little red flower was naturally formed by the power of the heartless flower goo." Monastery Master Blackbeard manipulating the heartless flower goo to break Lu Rui's protective barrier was the second step of the plan. The next step was for the 3 of them to surround and attack Shen Lian. He would secretly order Shen Lian to kill Lu Rui and Wan Sanyi by mistake in the chaotic battle. The plan progressed smoothly up to this point without any accidents. Being framed by Monastery Master Blackbeard and being slandered by Chao Cheng, anyone would go crazy. Even Chao Cheng himself believed that Shen Lian would attack in anger. However, a cold laugh resounded. "Ah, so your target was not me, but Madame Wan." Shen Lian looked at Lu Rui and then at Chao Cheng and the rest. His eyes were clear and bright. He finally understood what this calamity was. "You want to use me to kill Madame Wan?" Shen Lian's lips curled up. "I am very curious. What do you plan to do next? How will you make me kill Madame Wan? What is going on with this person?" Chao Cheng's hair stood on end. He looked at Monastery Master Blackbeard and shouted, "Everyone saw it. You purposely harmed Madame Wan. Don't even think of denying it. Shen Lian, you harm my father. I will kill you." The 3 of them closed in and attacked. Blackbeard was at the front, while Chao Cheng was at the back. Monastery Master Blackbeard's skin turned even darker. Black energy coiled around him, emitting a filthy light as he shouted, "I have already turned in 100 poisons physique. Anyone who touches me or is touched by me will be poisoned to death." Monastery Master Blackbeard's movements were erratic. He held a cold dagger in his hand, constantly changing his position. Blackbeard and Blackbeard were the first to attack. In the plan, they were only feinting to cover Chao Cheng, who was following closely behind. Divine eyes of disdain. Chao Cheng breathed in deeply, Cold light shot out from his silver eyes, forming rings of light that spread out. Kill Lu Rui and Wan San. Chao Cheng ordered. A tyrannical was released along with the rings of light. At this moment, Shun Lian raised his head slightly and looked at Chao Cheng's head. His pupils constricted as he saw it. A huge illusory image of a vertical eye appeared above Chao Cheng's head. The pupil was dark and deep. Red flames surrounded the eye, shooting rings of light towards Shun Lian, forming a beam of red light. Could this be? Shun Lian's expression instantly became interesting. Kill Lu Rui and Wan San. Almost at the next moment, Chao Cheng's voice rang in Shun Lian's mind. His will directly implanted into his heart, giving him a strong impulse to kill Lu Rui and Wan San. At the same time, Shun Lian had the urge to laugh. So the so-called divine eyes of disdain is essentially a type of divine soul attack. Chao Cheng's divine soul is very strong, and he has forged a silver Dharma idol. His Dharma idol is this illusory vertical eye that can give orders to others. It should be called the disdain demon Dharma idol. Shun Lian finally understood what Chao Cheng's murderous gaze was. Unfortunately, I have a Dharma idol too. Whoosh! A huge object appeared above Shun Lian's head. It was half scorpion and half snake, and its entire body was covered in black flames. The flames burned fiercely, engulfing heaven and earth, and roaring in the universe. After a roar, a terrifying amount of spiritual energy poured out of him. The demonic eye of disdain's spiritual energy was crushed into dust. Puff! Chao Cheng suffered a backlash and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper. Chao Cheng, witness my Dharma idol, Calamity Dharma idol. Shun Lian's domineering aura leaked out. The half-scorpion and half-snake Calamity Dharma idol rushed out, spewing out a huge beam of black flames from its mouth. It burned the sky, boiled the sea, and incinerated everything. It directly penetrated the vertical eye in front of it. Ah! In an instant, Chao Cheng screamed miserably and covered his eyes. His eyes were bleeding profusely, and his face was covered in blood. What happened? The black-bearded man was stunned. At that moment, Abbot Blackbeard lowered his head as a hand reached out from his chest, and it was a heart that was still beating. Under his gaze, the abbot crushed the beating heart. You! Temple Master Blackbeard fell backwards. He raised his head to look at the owner of the hand. A handsome and strong young man knelt beside Wan Yin, who was lying on a cold bed, and gently hammered her jade-like legs. Princess, Chao Cheng is an ingrate. He will betray you sooner or later, the young man said worriedly. That bitch Lu Rui can die, and she deserves to die. However, Wan San must not die. He has already made a will, forbidding you from touching the Goo Garden. If he dies before he changes his will, Princess, you will no longer have the chance to obtain the Goo Garden. Wan Yin closed her eyes and smiled, chuckling. What are you worried about? That idiot Chao Cheng wants to kill my father. What a joke. But didn't you give him a foolproof plan? A foolproof plan? That lousy plan with so many loopholes. How can it succeed? Ha ha. Wan Yin lightly fanned herself, laughing uncontrollably. Chao Cheng thought that plan was good because he was afraid of Shun Lian. A person with fear in his heart is the easiest to manipulate. He believed everything I said. Chao Cheng thought that he could exchange for the innate talent goo with a heartless flower goo, but he did not use his brain. I grew up in the Goo Garden and have goo as my companion. How could I not know about the heartless flower goo in the Central Plains? Since I knew about the heartless flower goo, why didn't I use it to deal with Lu Rui? What an arrogant idiot. Even I know about the heartless flower goo. How could my father not know? Wan Yin chuckled, shaking like a flower. That seemingly foolproof plan has the biggest flaw, and that is my father. Everyone thinks he is just a merchant. Even I do not dare to recklessly guess how strong he is. Wan Yin finally opened her eyes. There were fragments of light flickering in her eyes. Chao Cheng, together with the black and white beards, I hope you can force my father to make a move and let me find out his true strength. Tomorrow noon. The top shelf goo was about to open its aperture. This goo had endless power and could scare off many readers. However, there were many shape-shifting demons hidden among the readers. They had a companion goo called the subscription goo, which was the nemesis of the top shelf goo. Tomorrow, the battle of dragons and tigers would begin. Chapter 92. Blackbeard. Temple Lord Whitebeard's hair stood on end. In an instant, Chao Chung was inexplicably heavily injured and Temple Lord Blackbeard was killed. The person who killed Blackbeard was Wan Sanny. How could this be? Temple Lord Whitebeard's expression was one of utter shock. He started to suspect that this Wan Sanny was a fake. Just earlier, Wan San's right arm suddenly extended to over 3 meters and got close to Temple Lord Blackbeard, directly digging out his heart and crushing it. The scene was extremely brutal. It all happened too quickly. Anyone who harms Rui must die. Wan San was filled with killing intent. He was furious as he looked at Temple Lord Blackbeard, who had died miserably, and then stared at Temple Lord Whitebeard. You? Temple Lord Whitebeard was completely shocked. He quickly retreated and grabbed the screaming Chao Chung. Dazzling light burst out from his body, forming a huge, oval-shaped light barrier that covered him and Chao Chung. Trying to escape? Shun Lian shouted and activated Grandmaster Gu, pouring the remaining snow-silver primeval essence in his aperture into the heaven-eroding sword. In an instant, the sky-devouring sword expanded rapidly until it was 3 meters long. In the blink of an eye, it stabbed towards Chao Chung and the white-bearded monastery leader. Chao Cheng's eyes were bleeding and his vision was blurry. At this moment, he felt an endless chill, as if he had fallen into an ice cave. He quickly pulled Temple Lord Whitebeard towards him. In the next instant, they suddenly disappeared from where they stood. Heaven-eroding sword was dripping with blood. The blood seeped into the sword's patterns and soon disappeared. The heaven-eroding sword's might became even stronger. Crack, crack, crack. After Chao Chung and Temple Lord Whitebeard escaped, the spatial barrier cracked like transparent glass, forming countless patterns. The cracks continued to expand, and eventually it shattered. Third Master. Madam, are you all right? The retainers and maids rushed over in a flurry. Don't panic. Third Master Wan supported Lu Rui with his arm and calmly ordered, quickly go fetch the crystal dew to clean the poisonous flowers. He then turned to Wan Da Huang and said, Old dog, quickly help Benefactor Shun remove the curse. Wan Da Huang showed 1,000 unwilling expressions. He slowly turned to Shun Lian and snorted, Brat, consider yourself lucky. Today Grandpa Dog is here to show off his might. Stretch out your hand. Shun Lian didn't know what was going on, so he stretched out his left hand. At this moment, Wan Da Huang shook his head, and his head suddenly changed into a dog's head. His fur was orange, leaning towards gold. His eyes were of moderate size, wide and deep. His eyes were cunning and intelligent. His eyes were dark brown, and his fur was thick. The outer fur was tough, close to his body, and slightly curled. It was more like a golden retriever than a big yellow dog. The golden retriever was a well-proportioned, powerful, and lively dog breed. Its body parts were well-coordinated, and its legs were neither too slender nor too clumsy. It had a friendly expression, and it was enthusiastic, alert, confident, cute, docile, and did not attack people. It was a very docile family companion dog. Moreover, the golden retriever was originally a type of hunting dog. Now, it was mostly used as a guide dog or pet dog. According to the classification of breeds, Wan Da Huang should be a wretched golden retriever demon dog. Once the golden retriever dog's head appeared, it stuck out its tongue and laughed nonstop. It looked very comical and was much friendlier. My companion Gu is called the Loyalty Gu. It has a loyal heart and a heart stronger than stone. It can dispel any vengeful curse in the world. Saying this, Wan Da Huang licked Shun Lian's hand. Its tongue secreted a lot of saliva, and it licked and smeared the blood curse pattern on Shun Lian's skin. Immediately, Shun Lian felt a sharp pain on his hand. He saw the blood curse pattern disappear rapidly under the nourishment of the saliva, leaving behind a red burn mark on his skin. At the same time, the surging strength, The blood energy and primeval essence that were swallowed slowly returned to his body. After a moment, the blood curse pattern disappeared completely. Good. Shun Lian had completely recovered. He clenched his fists and was in high spirits. He howled towards the sky with a vast divine might. Old Da, well done. Shun Lian laughed and patted Wan Dahuang's golden retriever dog's head. Wan Dahuang's expression immediately changed. Without waiting for Wan Dahuang to howl, Shun Lian walked towards Lu Rui and asked, "How is Madam?" She was pregnant and could not be hurt. Lu Rui's face was slightly pale, but she nodded. "I am fine." Wan San sighed. That poisonous flower was formed from the power of the heartless flower goo. It can be washed with crystal dew to remove most of the poison. The remaining poison needs to be slowly recuperated, and it will take at least half a month to completely remove it. Will it affect the fetus? Wan San was also worried about this matter, saying, "I've already asked people to invite a few friends over to take a look." Shun Lian's expression sank, and his killing intent intensified. "Wan San, do you have a way to find the whereabouts of Chao Chung and his henchmen?" Wan San's gaze flashed, and he nodded. "Yu Mancho made a treasure for me. It is called Space Mirror Diagram. This treasure can monitor the spatial fluctuations left behind by the teleportation goo. Men, bring me the Space Mirror Diagram." Not long later, a 3-meter-long scroll slowly unfurled. Shun Lian focused his gaze, and what entered his eyes was a map of Ronghua City. At this moment, there were 2 dots on the map that were constantly flashing, emitting ripples that were very obvious. One of the dots was the Wan clan's inner court garden. Wan San pointed at the 2 dots. The space mirror diagram can monitor the intense spatial fluctuations at all times. Look at these 2 dots. They're the traces left behind by that Goom Master when he was teleporting. They should have teleported to this location. The second dot was in an alley in the east of the city. It was about 10 li away from the Wan clan. Shun Lian memorized the location. They should not have escaped far. There is no time to lose. I will chase after them now. Shun Lian walked out of the pavilion in a flash, his legs slightly bent as he aimed at the east of the city and jumped. Boom! Smoke and dust exploded on the ground, and Shun Lian shot into the sky like a cannonball. Wan San sent him off with a shocked expression and ordered, "Seal the whole city and search." Boom! Boom! Shun Lian jumped up and down 4 or 5 times. Each time he jumped up close to a kilometer away. When he jumped up again, he was in the air, and with a sweep of his gaze, he found that alley and landed there. This alley was rather secluded. There were no pedestrians, and Chao Chung and the white-bearded temple master were also nowhere to be seen. But Shun Lian looked at the ground and immediately found a very regular circle at a certain place. It was slightly sunken, and there was also a trail of blood on the ground. As expected, the heaven-eroding sword injured one of them. Immediately, Shun Lian followed the trail of blood and chased after it. He followed the trail of blood all the way to the depths of the alley and stopped in front of a house. The copper lock on the door was broken and fell to the ground. Shun Lian squinted his eyes and noticed these details. He kicked the door open and barged in. "It's you." In the courtyard, the white-bearded temple master who was bandaging his wounds suddenly turned around and looked at Shun Lian with a frightened expression. His breathing stagnated. His left chest was pierced through by the heaven-eroding sword. The wound was torn open, and part of it was burnt black and withered. The loss of blood dyed half of his body red, which made his face even paler. In the next moment, the white-bearded temple master suddenly noticed that the blood curse pattern on Shun Lian's body had all disappeared. How is this possible? That was a blood curse. Not only did Shun Lian remove the blood curse, but he also chased after him. The white-bearded temple master was horrified, as if he had seen a ghost. Shun Lian looked around and asked coldly, "Where is Chao Chung?" The white-bearded temple master stood up, holding a dagger in his hand. His sinister eyes were filled with killing intent as he said sternly, "Humph, I alone am enough to kill you. You are heavily injured and hiding here. That means you can't use the teleportation goo anymore. What right do you have to fight me?" Shun Lian said coldly, slowly raising the heaven-eroding sword, his eyes filled with killing intent. I can't use long-distance teleportation, but close-distance teleportation. Before he finished his words, the white-bearded temple master's body burst out with light, and he vanished from the spot. At the next moment, Shun Lian's body tensed up. Without thinking, he activated Dodge Goo and dodged, his whole body turning into a series of afterimages as he moved rapidly. Almost at the same time he left the spot, the white-bearded temple master suddenly appeared in the air above his head. Shun Lian, you shouldn't have chased after me. Since you want to die, I will grant you your wish. The white-bearded temple master shouted, his dagger piercing towards the back of Shun Lian's neck. But that Shun Lian was only an afterimage. The white-bearded temple master's arm suddenly sank, stabbing empty air. Only then did he realize that he had only stabbed an afterimage. So fast, the white-bearded temple master was astonished. Dodgegu allowed him to move freely within a range of 10 meters. He quickly turned around and came back, stabbing at the white-bearded temple master who was falling from the air. The white-bearded temple master was shocked. His body flashed with light, and he disappeared. Puff! At the critical moment, the heaven-eroding sword touched the white-bearded temple master's thigh. In front of the central room, the white-bearded temple master staggered out, holding his bleeding thigh as he grimaced in pain, his expression distorted. Shun Lian flew over and slashed with his sword. The white-bearded abbot was aghast as he disappeared in a flash. In the next moment, he appeared at the door and fled. After his sword missed, Shun Lian released the Calamity Avatar. The Avatar was the primordial spirit. It could condense a powerful soul attack, as well as divine sense that transcended the 5 senses. Once the Calamity Avatar was released, the Avatar's Heaven and Earth Avatar would be able to see everything within 100 meters. There would be no more secrets. Shun Lian turned around and shot out like an arrow. The white-bearded temple master had just escaped when Shun Lian arrived behind him and slashed with his sword. So fast, the white-bearded temple master's hair stood on end. He even had the thought of dying. Strong observation, fast reaction, fast speed. Only with these characteristics could one keep up with the teleportation goo's rhythm. Shun Lian's attack made the white-bearded temple master's scalp numb and his heart tremble. He disappeared and appeared at the end of the alley. Continuous close-distance teleportation consumed a lot of primeval essence. But before he could catch his breath, a cold intent pounced at him from behind. I will fight it out with you. The white-bearded temple master flew into a rage out of humiliation. He suddenly disappeared from his spot. Shun Lian's sword pierced through his position, missing him by a hair's breadth. In the next moment, the white-bearded abbot appeared in Shun Lian's blind spot and attacked from the side. Shun Lian's heart was as clear as a mirror. He was able to see through everything. He immediately used the third style of the wind-chasing sword, ferocious ghosts spreading claws. Every move of wind-chasing fast sword was an attack. There was no defense. It aimed to win with speed. Fierce ghost spread claws. This sword move appeared and disappeared mysteriously. Its attack angle was extremely strange. With a swoosh, just as the dagger was about to reach him, the heaven-devouring sword drew a twisted arc. It was as if a ghost had suddenly reached out its claws from under the bed. It pierced the white-bearded abbot's chest, piercing his sternum and nailing him to the wall behind him. Chapter 93. Run, try teleporting again. Shun Lian shouted arrogantly. This guy was jumping up and down like the 4th Hokage. He was not easy to deal with. White-bearded temple lord who was nailed to the wall screamed miserably. He was extremely frustrated. What was this? His close-distance teleportation was mystical. He could instantly appear at any point in space. It was strange and unpredictable, suitable for assassination. He was an assassin-type Gu master. He was extremely proficient in assassination. He had killed countless people with his dagger. Even Gu masters stronger than him, he could not be defeated, and even if he was defeated, he could easily escape. When it came to him, it was always the others who were depressed. However, this time around, it was strange that he was defeated. He was defeated by Shan Lian. Not only was he defeated, he was even captured. White-bearded Temple Lord was extremely frustrated. He felt that his loss was extremely humiliating. Speak, where did Chao Qing go? Shan Lian did not know White-bearded Temple Lord. He was not in a hurry to kill him. He let him live and interrogated him about Chao Cheng's whereabouts. That bastard ran away long ago. I saved his life, but he used me as a shield. He must die a horrible death. The moment the white-bearded monastery master thought of Chao Cheng, he was filled with anger and hatred as he cursed continuously. If Chao Cheng did not use him as a shield, he would not have been pierced by the heaven-eroding sword. He would not have been unable to teleport and ended up in Shan Lian's hands. He was tricked by Chao Cheng. Of course, White-bearded Temple Lord did not save Chao Cheng out of kindness. He was worried that Chao Cheng would confess about Wan Yin after being captured. Who would have thought that Chao Cheng had already considered that if the plan failed, Wan Yin would definitely kill him. Thus, after being teleported to an alley, he immediately escaped from White-bearded Temple Lord. Why did Chao Cheng assassinate Wan Sanyi and Madame Wan? This was what Xin Lian could not understand. Why would a stray dog take the risk to assassinate the most powerful people in Ronghua City? I'm not sure. I'm only a helper that he spent 1,000,000 taels to hire. White-bearded Temple Lord said vaguely. Xin Lian narrowed his eyes and sneered. Save your nonsense for Wan Sanyi. He raised his head and looked at the sky. It was getting dark. By the manger, dusk. Chao Cheng scooped up some cold water and washed his eyes, washing away all the blood on his face. When he opened his eyes, he felt a burning pain in his eyes. They were still bleeding, and his vision was sometimes clear and sometimes blurry. Xin Lian, you destroyed my disdainful divine eye. I will definitely get my revenge. Just you wait. Chao Cheng was hysterical. His heart was filled with extreme hatred. He almost ground his teeth to pieces. His face was sinister. I can't stay in Ronghua City anymore. I have to leave as soon as possible. Soon, Chao Cheng had to face reality. When he thought of Wan Sanyi's anger, his scalp went numb and he was annoyed. What's wrong with me? Why did I listen to Wan Yin's nonsense? What a bullsh*T perfect plan. He's going to kill me. Chao Cheng grabbed his hair with both hands, messing it up. He then took off his blood-stained outer clothes and threw them into the manger. He also took off his shoes and rolled around on the ground, making him look incomparably sloppy. He looked down and out like a beggar. During the battle at the pavilion, I was countered by Xin Lian. I spat out a mouthful of blood. My eyes were also bleeding profusely, spilling all over the pavilion. Chao Cheng's heart palpitated. The Calamity Avatar's half-scorpion, half-snake form was deeply imprinted in his mind, causing him to shiver uncontrollably. What made him even more worried was that if the blood spilled in the pavilion were to be obtained by a curse-type Gu Master, he would be finished. Before I was transported, I threw out a bottle of spirit water. I don't know if it destroyed all the blood stains. As long as a single drop of blood is not destroyed, Chao Cheng did not dare to continue thinking. Walking out of the stable, Chao Cheng bent his waist and walked barefoot on the street with a walking stick. The entire city is under lockdown. Arrest the criminal Chao Cheng. Reward of 500,000 taels. Those who harbor the criminal Chao Cheng will have their whole family executed. On the street, the government officials, city guards, New Kuan, and all sorts of forces were extremely active. They interrogated the passers-by and searched every house, all because of Wan Sanyi's order. They are so fast, I can't leave. Chao Cheng's heart thumped and his face turned ashen. His emotions were agitated and tears of blood flowed out of his eyes. He quickly grabbed a handful of soil and covered his face, concealing his past glory. What should I do? I absolutely cannot go to Wan Yin's place. She will definitely kill me to silence me. Chao Cheng's mind was filled with thoughts when he suddenly thought of a person, a relative named Wu Yinzong. When he was in power, Wu Yinzong curried favor with him like a dog, giving his younger sister to him as a concubine. Chao Cheng had looked down on this guy in the past. Wu Yinzong was implicated because of me. He was beaten up by Xin Lian and chased out of New Kuan. He definitely hates Shun Lian. I can temporarily seek refuge with him and wait for an opportunity to make my move. After making up his mind, Chao Chung hid in a small alley and squatted down, pretending to be a beggar. When the sky turned completely dark, he walked towards Wu Yinzong's house. Shun Lian carried white, bearded temple lord like a dead dog and jumped up. After a few jumps, they returned to Wan Manor. Third master, we caught one. Chao Chung escaped. Shun Lian threw white, bearded temple lord on the ground. Seeing this, Wan San was deeply moved and said joyfully, "Benefactor Shun is truly brave. Don't worry, without the help of a teleportation goo master, Chao Chung cannot escape. Men, bring him away and interrogate him carefully." White bearded temple lord was dragged away. At this time, a retainer walked over with a slightly gloomy expression and reported respectfully, "Third master, before Chao Chung escaped, he splashed a bottle of serene water and destroyed his blood. We can't use his blood to curse him." Oh, this guy is quite smart. Wan Sanny chuckled coldly and was not disappointed. He waved his hand and dismissed the retainer, turning to look at Shun Lian. "Benefactor Shun, please rest in the manor. I guarantee that we will capture Chao Chung within 3 days." Shun Lian was silent and seemed to be in deep thought. "Benefactor Shun?" Wan San called out. Shun Lian raised his head and looked deeply at Wan San, saying seriously, "Third master, Chao Chung is not after me." Wan San raised his brows and sighed. "I know, Chao Chung is only a chess piece. There's a mastermind behind the scenes." Third master is wise. Shun Lian knew that he did not have to say anything more. Without a strong insider, it was impossible for something like this to happen. This spy had a very high status in Wan Manor and was likely to be someone close to Wan Sanny. If Wan Sanny and the pregnant Lu Rui both died in this assassination, who would be the biggest beneficiary? This made him think of Lu Rui's disappearance. Under the protection of so many retainers, how did Ghosthead Blade Guan Chao kidnap Lu Rui? Without the help of a spy, it was impossible. The waters here were too deep. "Third master, it's getting late. I will return to New Kuan first." Shun Lian took his leave. Wan San's heart was heavy, so he did not ask him to stay and asked someone to send him out. "Elder Shun, gang leader asked you to meet him immediately after your return." Shun Lian had just returned when he was stopped by a warden who had been waiting at the door for a long time. "Okay, I got it." Shun Lian nodded and immediately went to the 5th floor. As soon as he entered, he saw Man Boyu pacing back and forth restlessly. Konyu was also there, looking anxious. "Gang leader, deputy gang leader. Younger brother Shun, you are finally back." Konyu sized up Shun Lian nervously and worriedly. "I heard you were killed by Chao Chung. How are you? Are you hurt?" Man Boyu also looked over nervously. "I am fine." Shun Lian briefly explained the situation. "Blood curse." Kong Yu's expression changed drastically, and he was furious. "Chao Chung, that little bastard. We should have cut him into pieces long ago." Wan San is indeed full of hidden talents. Not only is he full of talents, but he also has a dog demon who can break the blood curse as his follower. Man Boyu sighed. His face was full of surprise and admiration. If it were someone else, Shun Lian would be in deep trouble. Even if New Kuan could find someone who could break the blood curse for him, it would take time. By then, it would be too late, and his cultivation foundation would be damaged. Wan San himself is not simple. Shun Lian sighed, with a complicated expression. Others might not have seen how Wan San killed Temple Master Blackbeard, but he did. At that time, Temple Master Blackbeard had turned into the 100 Poison's body. His body was full of poison and could not be touched. However, Wan San killed him like a dog. After a while, Man Boyu raised his eyebrows and said in a low voice, "Wan San also thinks there is a mastermind behind this?" Shun Lian nodded. "Sigh, they're finally going to shed all pretenses of cordiality." Man Boyu suddenly sighed inexplicably. "We only need to search for Chao Chung and deal with this traitor. The internal strife of the Wan residence is too complicated and involves too many people. We must not get involved." Man Boyu looked at Shun Lian with an extremely serious expression. Obviously, he knew something. Without asking further, Shun Lian returned to his office on the fourth floor. Young master, there is news from Wu Yinzong. Bai Ling, who came back first, was pleasantly surprised. Wu Yinzong. Shun Lian's spirits were lifted. He took the scroll from the messenger bird and was overjoyed. Huh. Chao Chang fell into a trap. Shun Lian was overjoyed. Without informing anyone, he turned and left. He galloped on his horse. After a while, Shun Lian got off his horse and walked into a residential area. He stopped in front of a courtyard. Wu residence, this is it. Shun Lian glanced at the plaque above the door and quietly climbed over the wall to enter. This was a medium-large residence. It was divided into an inner courtyard and an outer courtyard. There were more than 10 rooms. It was much more luxurious than the place Shun Lian used to live. He looked around. The other rooms were all dark. Only one room was lit. Shun Lian approached without making a sound. He heard someone talking. In the room, 2 people sat in front of a table of food and wine. Brother-in-law, don't worry. Hide here and recuperate. After you recover, I will find a way to send you out of the city. Wu Yinzong smiled and poured wine for Chao Cheng. He was respectful and reverent, just like before. Gulp. Chao Cheng, who had already washed up and changed his clothes, drank the wine in one gulp. His eyes were completely bloodshot, which made his silver eyes turn blood red, making him look even more horrifying. Yinzong, when I was in trouble, you did your best to help me. I will never forget this kindness. When I make a comeback one day, I will definitely repay you greatly. Chao Cheng vowed solemnly and patted Wu Yinzong's shoulder heavily. We are family. Why are you thanking me? Wu Yinzong smiled and poured wine for Chao Cheng again. At this moment, there was a loud bang. The door suddenly opened. A figure dashed in like lightning. Chao Cheng was startled and opened his eyes wide. A fist as big as a sandbag quickly enlarged in Chao Cheng's eyes and punched toward his face. Boom! Chao Cheng groaned miserably. His body flew backward and hit the wall before falling down. With a flash of a sword, Chao Cheng's arms were separated from his body. Chapter 94. Shun Lian appeared in front of Chao Cheng with a sword in his hand. Greetings, Elder Shun. Wu Yinzong knelt on the ground. His face was full of joy. You betrayed me. Chao Cheng's nose was completely caved in, and both of his arms were gone. Blood spurted out from the broken parts and spilled all over the ground. He was in so much pain that he kept twitching. Humph! You're a traitor of New Kuan. Everyone has the right to kill you. I'm putting righteousness before family. Wu Yinzong sneered. He puffed out his chest and felt a little proud. Chao Cheng looked down on him. He was always arrogant in front of him. After marrying his sister, he didn't treat her well at all. He even beat her with a whip. She was covered in bruises. His sister was bullied badly, but she didn't dare to say a word to her brother. She cried all day long. Wu Yinzong knew all these things, but what could he do? He could only grit his teeth and bear it. He had to smile, but he had been suppressing his anger for a long time. This time, he watched Chao Cheng fall in his hands. He destroyed a person he used to be extremely afraid of. That feeling in his heart was indescribably satisfying. What made Wu Yinzong even more ecstatic was that he had made a great contribution this time. After returning to New Kuan, he would reach the peak of his life. Chao Cheng, you didn't expect that one day I would step on your dead body to reach the peak. Wu Yinzong's hatred was vented. He was in high spirits. Shun Lian looked at Chao Cheng and asked indifferently, "Who is the mastermind who ordered you to do this?" Chao Cheng's expression was twisted and hideous. He smiled bitterly and said, "Do you think I'll tell you?" Shun Lian sneered. "I think you will." "Why?" "Because you didn't run back to the mastermind." Chao Cheng was stunned. After a while, he smiled bitterly and roared, "Fine, I'll tell you. The mastermind is Wan Sanyi's daughter, Wanyin. It's really Wanyin. I've heard of her name long ago," Shun Lian said to himself. He swung his sword horizontally. Puff! A head flew up. At this point, the calamity was finally over. The black vortex slowly condensed into a ball of calamity energy the size of a tangerine and disappeared into Shun Lian's glabella in a flash. Light flashed on the interface, and the information was updated. Calamity goo, bronze level 10, special effect, chaotic vortex, heart demon contamination, Dharma idle bewitching man to descend, gained 3,000 bewitchment points. Then a wonderful voice rang in Shun Lian's mind, and a blissful smile blossomed on his face. The only pity was that the disdain goo was also a soul fusion type goo. It could not be obtained after the person died. Wu Yinzong, take Chao Cheng's head to New Kuan to receive the reward and return to my service, Shun Lian said indifferently. Then he turned around and left. Subordinate thanks Elder Shun. This subordinate respectfully sends off Elder Shun. Wu Yinzong was so excited that his body trembled slightly. He knelt on the ground and only got up after a long time. The next day, Wu Yinzong brought Chao Cheng's head to New Kuan. What? Chao Cheng was killed by Wu Yinzong. I heard that after Chao Cheng failed to attack the Wan residence, he had nowhere to run, so he hid in Wu Yinzong's house. However, Wu Yinzong killed him for the sake of justice. Wu Yinzong is also a ruthless person. No matter what, Chao Cheng is still his brother-in-law. He got a huge advantage. Sigh. How could it be that Wu Yinzong got a huge advantage? It was Elder Shin who had great foresight and planned everything beforehand. The news spread quickly, and only then did everyone know that Wu Yinzong was only pretending to be chased out of New Kuan by Shin Lian. In fact, it was a ruse to lure Chao Cheng into taking the bait. For a moment, Shin Lian was in the limelight. Inside the prison, it was dark and damp. It's time to eat. The jailer poured a bowl of thick porridge into a bowl full of mud and threw it in front of the prison door. Chao Yuqing looked at him coldly and reached out to pick up the bowl. He sneered and started eating in big mouthfuls. He seemed to be in a good mood. Oh, you're enjoying the food. The jailer crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at Chao Yuqing coldly. Chao Yuqing, you seem to be in good spirits recently. You give people the feeling that you will be released tomorrow. The jailer teased. Chao Yuqing laughed and said heroically, the heroes of Jianghu come from my generation. Everyone has their own fate, a moment's gain or loss, half of a lifetime's victory or defeat. The ups and downs are nothing to me, Chao Yuqing. However, one day, I will become a dragon. My fate is in my own hands, not in the hands of the heavens. The jailer was surprised and grinned. I didn't expect you to be so open-minded and ambitious. It's just a pity for your son. My son? Chao Yuqing's heart skipped a beat, and his expression changed. What happened to my son? I just heard the people outside talking. Your son, Chao Cheng, was killed by Wu Yinzong. The carriage stopped in front of the door. Wan San got off the carriage and waved his hand. I'll go in alone. You guys wait for me outside. Yes. The retainers frowned and replied in unison. Wan San stepped through the door and went straight inside. As soon as he entered the inner courtyard, he saw a person standing at the door waiting for him. Greetings, father. Wan Yin was wearing a pair of green muslin dresses. Her beauty was unparalleled, and she looked a little mischievous. Ina, Wan San smiled warmly. I haven't seen you in a while. Come take a walk with father. Wan Yin smiled lightly and walked forward. She held on to Master Wan's arm and walked forward with him. After turning a corner, they entered a bamboo forest. The bamboo leaves were lush and green, and wildflowers were blooming everywhere without any trimming. The father and daughter walked without saying a word. After a long while, Wan San stopped and sighed. The abbot of the White Beer Monastery committed suicide by biting his tongue. Wan Yin lowered her head slightly. Did he confess? Wan San shook his head. We tortured him in turns and even skinned him. He didn't say anything. Wan Yin covered her mouth and laughed. She said mischievously, Father, what do you think of my methods of controlling people? Wan San sighed and nodded. Impressive. Wan Yin had a smug look on his face as he said, I raised the black and white beard for 6 years just to give you a surprise. Does father like it? Wan San said indifferently, Father is old. I can't take too many surprises. Father, you're too humble. You're old but strong. The wind blew Wan Yin's waterfall-like hair, blocking her eerie smile. I still have many surprises. Father, do you want to hear them? I don't seem to have a choice. Last time, when Lu Rui was kidnapped by the bandits, I was the mastermind behind the scenes. My goal was to obtain the Goo Garden. I already guessed this. It's not a surprise. Don't be anxious. This is just the appetizer. The conflict between the Lin and Huang families was also arranged by me. Wan Sanyi's expression finally darkened. Lifespan goo is so rare and precious that even families go crazy over it. Let me ask you, how did the family Huang who uses zombie goo as a bloodline goo obtain lifespan goo and a recipe to refine undying goo? This is all thanks to me. Wanyin chuckled. She had an expression that said, "You should praise me." Wan San narrowed his eyes. His breathing became heavier as he looked at his daughter and clenched his fists. I, Wan San, really gave birth to a good daughter. My achievements today are all thanks to Father. Wan Yin's tone had some sincerity. Why are you doing this? Father, you once taught me not only to see the changes in the wind and clouds, but also to see the general trend behind them. This time, I have seen through it. Oh, what general trend have you seen through? The general trend of the world. A powerful aura emerged from Wan Yin's body. Back then, Father negotiated with the 9 great families of the Central Plains. Under the guise of helping the Central Plains extract the wealth of the Northern lands, you opened up the Goo Garden and made a name for yourself. I deeply admire your spirit back then and have always set you as my goal. I hope to surpass you one day. The 9 great families of the Central Plains are plotting something big. They are worried that the forces of the Northern lands will come and cause trouble. I took the opportunity and volunteered to suppress the entire Northern lands with my own strength. Father, your era has already ended. My era has just begun. Please grant me my wish. Wanyin slowly knelt down. Third Master Wan laughed bitterly and said, "My era is over. Why don't you give it a try?" Then he slammed his palm down. The corners of Wan Yin's mouth curled up, and the crimson light around her surged out. The crimson light surged out, and on the surface of her body, it transformed into a copper helmet, a neck guard, a waist guard, a battle robe, a chest guard, a bronze mirror, a battle skirt, and a pair of battle boots. The dark red armor clung to the curves of her body and covered her entire body, forming a flawless defense. It made her look valiant and heroic, dazzling and stunning. Wan Sanyi slammed his palm down on the dark red armor. Wan Yin, who was kneeling on the ground, was hit until her body sank slightly, but she was fine. Oh, this is the true power of the 3,000 Doting Goo. So, it is an armor type. Wan Sanyi could not help but be moved. Wan Yin smiled. 3,000 Doting Goo. Those who love me will submit to me. Those who do not love me will have their enmity, hatred, jealousy, and so on turned into the armor strength. In other words, only those who love me can harm me. Those who do not love me cannot harm me. But how can those who love me harm me? Arrogant. Wan Sanyi snorted angrily. His arms suddenly lengthened and reached in front of Wan Yin, his 5 fingers turning into sharp claws. At the same time, Wan Sanyi's body slowly turned transparent, turning into an illusory body. The transparent claws directly pierced through the dark red armor and entered Wan Yin's body, grabbing her heart. Wan Yin's brows flickered as she said in shock, "So this is Father's main ascension goo." Wan Sanyi said solemnly, "This goo is called reality illusion goo. It allows a person to control the power of reality and illusion, ignoring the laws of physics and passing through objects at will, turning illusion into reality at any time. Right now, I've already grabbed your heart. You are dead meat." Wan Yin, however, laughed happily. I said, "Only those who love me can harm me. Father, you're the only person in this world who loves me and can harm me. I am willing to die in Father's hands. I have no regrets." Wan Sanyi was stunned, looking at Wan Yin. His eyes were filled with her adorable appearance when she was young. Tears welled up in his eyes uncontrollably. After a long while, Wan Sanyi sighed dejectedly, turning around and leaving. From today onwards, I, Wan Sanyi, no longer have a daughter like you. Wan Yin, the Goo Garden is yours. Wan Yin stood among the beautiful flowers and plants, so beautiful, so lonely. Tears flowed down her face, but a gust of wind blew them dry. Chapter 95. Inside the cultivation room. Shun Lian sat cross-legged, with two brocade boxes in front of him. Tiger Guts Goo, Well-Breath Goo, I have also obtained them. Shun Lian's gaze flickered. After refining these two goo, I will have a set of body-type goo, strengthening my body and nurturing my strength, becoming as strong as a dragon and elephant. With boundless strength, I will be able to subdue everything with brute strength. Killing the chelating demon, scaring away the Qi Lian, beating up the old demon, and still having the strength to fight despite the blood curse. In this series of crises, Shun Lian's strong physique and outstanding sword skills allowed him to turn danger into safety, gradually becoming Shun Lian's greatest reliance. This proved that his Goom Master Path was right. The body is the capital of revolution. The current him was much stronger than Goom Masters of the same rank. He was as strong as a monster, satisfying the law of 3 levels higher. Only those who were 3 levels higher than him had the strength to fight with him. After refining the Tiger Guts Goo and Whale Breath Goo, I will become even stronger. Only with great strength can I deal with the following crisis. Following this, the battle between Lin and Huang aristocratic families was on the verge of breaking out. The situation in the entire north was changing. Shun Lian had an ominous premonition that the two aristocratic families would not be kind. Even if the two aristocratic families do not fight, if this stalemate continues, the main forces of the aristocratic families will be restrained and have no time to take care of them. The demons will definitely take the chance to come out and wreak havoc in the north, causing endless demon disasters. If they fought, the situation would only be worse. I have to prepare for the worst. Thinking of this, Shun Lian quickly opened the brocade box containing the Tiger Guts Goo and was extremely shocked. Tiger Guts Goo, shaped like a cluster of flames, quietly burning. The outer flame was milky white, while the inner flame was pink. The core of the flame was like a drop of strawberry blood, emitting a moving aura of life. TSK. The Tiger Guts Goo is actually in the form of a flame. Shun Lian could be considered experienced and knowledgeable, but he was still shocked. There was also a roll of paper in the brocade box. Shun Lian opened it and took a look. It said, "The Tiger Guts Goo could only be refined by people who had no fear in their hearts." It was suitable for children who had never felt fear or even did not know what fear was. It was almost impossible for adults to successfully refine it. Have no fear in your heart. Shun Lian blinked. This requirement was too high. Who hadn't been scared before? Even children would have nightmares. It seems in this set of body fusion type goo, the Tiger Guts Goo is the hardest to refine, even harder than the Dragon Heart Goo. Shun Lian was speechless. However, he was not worried at all. He quickly took out a silver needle, pricked his finger, and fed it with his blood. Drops of bright red dripped down. The blood didn't extinguish the flames. Instead, it caused them to burn even more fiercely. The center of the flames became even brighter. The aura of life spread out, becoming extremely rich. Come on. Shun Lian was looking forward to it, hoping that he had fate with this Tiger Guts Goo. It was a pity, sure enough, no friendly thoughts were transmitted to him. Sigh. I'm no longer a pure child with a heart as white as paper. Shun Lian shook his head slightly. The Tiger Guts Goo was a hero based on courage. It was extremely arrogant and naturally wouldn't give in so easily. At this time, the life-twisting goo made its grand entrance. The clown-like life-twisting goo suddenly appeared in front of the Tiger Guts Goo. The flames seemed to be blown by a strong wind, slanting to one side. The blazing domineering posture started to waver. However, it had an unyielding will. It had courage and was fearless. Shun Lian opened his eyes wide. This was the first time he met a goo that wasn't afraid of the life-twisting goo. This might be the personality of the Tiger Guts Goo. What was fear? What was fear? It didn't exist. This was a true warrior. It dared to face everything head-on. It would never lower its proud head and would never give in. In terms of strength, the Tiger Guts Goo was not as awesome as the Dragon Heart Goo. However, in terms of courage, this was definitely the #1 in the world. It wasn't afraid of anyone. It had a strong personality. The life-twisting goo met with an unprecedented challenge. It wasn't anxious or annoyed. It didn't reveal its domineering aura like before. Instead, it obediently squatted beside the flames and chatted with the tiger guts goo. The life-twisting goo praised fiercely, as if it was saying, "Brother Tiger Guts, you really have guts. You are extremely daring and brazen. In terms of courage, you are definitely the #1 in the world. You can laugh at all the heroes. This little brother will follow you from now on." The tiger guts goo felt comfortable listening to it. Yes, yes. Boss will protect you from now on. The life-twisting goo raised its finger and pointed at Shun Lian, inviting him. "Boss, come and sit at my house. There will be good food and drinks. I will serve you well." The tiger guts goo hesitated and said in disdain, "A timid person is not worth mentioning." This goo had extremely high requirements. Even if there was a tiny bit of fear in its heart, it wouldn't accept it. It was the type that was extremely picky. Even if there were 100 episodes, it wouldn't take a liking to anyone. The life-twisting goo smiled apologetically. "Lack of courage. Make up for it with handsomeness. Look at this one. He is also a school hunk, 1 in 10,000. He can increase boss's charisma and achievement value. He is worth having. Will you consider it?" It continued to bewitch him like this, almost tearing its lips. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed. Shun Lian was getting more and more nervous. This had never happened before. The life-twisting goo continued to fight for a long time. Finally, Shun Lian couldn't take it anymore and shouted angrily, "Damn it! Why are you so arrogant? I have killed 3 demons. I have never been afraid of anyone. Do I need you to acknowledge me? I do have fear in my heart, but I don't think it is shameful. Fear can make me more alert and move forward more courageously. Fear can make me never slack off and live on tenaciously. The spirit of all living beings evolves faster because of fear. Fear is not a mistake. It is a powerful instinct. Who do you think you are? You have courage, but no brains. You will die the fastest. Sooner or later you will die." His speech was so loud that even the deaf could hear it. The tiger guts goo's flame jumped a few times, as if it was starting to seriously size up Shun Lian. The life-twisting goo stood quietly at the side, waiting. After a while, a thought that could make one's spirit rise was transmitted. Refinement success. Shun Lian was stunned for a moment, then he was overjoyed. The tiger guts goo that the life-twisting goo couldn't finish after 2 hours was subdued by his powerful aura. Perhaps this was what true courage looked like. Daring to admit one's fear and being able to deal with it effectively, turning it into motivation to move forward. The person who wrote this is only speaking from experience. He doesn't understand the tiger guts goo at all. Shun Lian pondered and smiled happily, allowing the tiger guts goo to turn into a rainbow light and enter his body. After a while, the gallbladder area in his abdomen felt a numbing sensation like an electric shock. It was so intense that he couldn't help but tremble. However, this electric shock did not last for long. After about the time it took to brew a cup of tea, it stopped. Immediately, the interface flashed and the information was updated. Tiger guts goo, white rank, special effect, treating each other with sincerity, outstanding courage, fusion progress 10%. After fusion progress reaches 15%, consume 5 bewitchment points to evolve the tiger guts goo by 1 level. Oh, there are 2 special effects. Treating each other with sincerity seems to be the literal meaning. Guts, even the liver, is connected. Guts are in the shape of a cyst, attached to the short lobe of the liver and connected to the liver. The liver and guts are connected by meridians, being the exterior and interior of each other. Their main function is to store and excrete bile and participate in the digestion of food. From this, it can be seen that the liver and guts are inseparable. Treating each other with sincerity is mainly a support type, increasing the ability of the withered glory goo in the liver. There is also outstanding courage. This special effect should be a strengthening of the mental aspect. Among goo masters, there's a type that specializes in mental attacks. For example, fear attacks. The fear in the victim's heart will be infinitely magnified, and a trace of fear may become extreme fear, causing the victim to lose control of their emotions. unable to take care of themselves, going crazy, or even dying from fright. Especially mental attacks, the scope of which is greater than soul attacks, is a double attack on the Goo Master's body and soul. A person who is hit by a mental attack will suffer both physical and mental torment. I have the Dharma idol, and with outstanding courage, I should be immune to this type of mental attack. Shunlian was overjoyed, pouring a cup of primeval water and drinking it. After sitting for a while, he opened the second brocade box. Whale breath goo, shaped like a lump of snow-white cotton candy, fluffy and loose. After feeding it with blood, the blood seeped into the cotton candy and was quickly absorbed, dyeing it red, turning into a magnificent and magical blood crystal. So beautiful! Shunlian admired it for a while, slowly letting out a breath of turbid air. Life-twisting goo flashed over, and this time, life-twisting goo once again displayed its domineering side, instantly suppressing whale breath goo, allowing Shunlian to refine it successfully. Whale breath goo turned into smoke and entered Shunlian's chest, and a moment later, his lungs felt a numbing sensation like an electric shock. It was extremely intense, stimulating Shunlian to the point of being unable to breathe. The miraculous thing was his breathing became slower and slower, longer and longer, but there was no feeling of lack of oxygen. Just one breath of air could last for a long period of time, and it was fine even if he did not breathe. Shunlian's spirit was roused, and he immediately walked out of the training room. He asked Bai Ling to bring a few incense sticks, and the two went to the bathroom. Shunlian asked Bai Ling to light the incense stick while he jumped into the bathtub filled with cold water, took a deep breath, and sank to the bottom of the water. The incense stick quickly burned out. Bai Ling's eyes shone as he looked at Shunlian in the bathtub, exclaiming that he held his breath for such a long time. Soon after, he lit a second incense stick, then a third. At the end of the 5 incense sticks burning out, Shunlian's breath was finally exhausted, and he floated up to the surface, his face showing great joy. Whale breath goo, breathing is like a whale's breath, too amazing. Whale breath goo was the goo with the most obvious effect, and it was reflected in breathing, allowing Shunlian to clearly feel that his breathing organs were greatly strengthened. Whale breath goo, white grade, special effect, swallowing mountains and rivers, fusion progress, 10%. When fusion progress reaches 15%, 5 bewitchment points will be consumed to evolve whale breath goo by 1 level. Young master, did you refine the fish gill goo? Bai Ling was shocked, his face full of disbelief. Shunlian smiled, and could not help but say the fish gill goo is not bad. It can allow people to breathe underwater like a fish. I was only holding my breath underwater. Holding your breath. Is this still human? Bai Ling was completely speechless, his jaw dropped, and he looked at Shunlian as if he was looking at a monster. At this moment, 3 long chimes of a bell could be heard. This was the signal for the sect leader to gather the higher-ups. Shunlian immediately changed his clothes and went to the 5th floor's discussion hall. When he entered, he saw that the other 7 elders had already arrived. Man Boyu, Kong Yu had also just arrived and were taking their seats. The other vice sect leader, Su Fu, had applied for sick leave. Everyone, I gathered you here because something big happened just now. Wan Sanyi suddenly announced that he will retire soon, and the Goo Garden will be passed on to Wan Yin. Man Boyu glanced at the 8 elders and spoke slowly. Chapter 96. Immediately, the discussion hall went into an uproar. Wan Sanyi has retired. The Goo Garden is in Wan Yin's hands. Wan Yin, how can it be her? Didn't Wan Sanyi forbid her from touching the Goo Garden? They are still related by blood. No matter how muddle-headed Wan Yin is, Wan Sanyi is still biased towards his daughter. Liang Qizhu, Gong Sun Ji, and the rest discussed. Shunlian noticed that compared to Wan Sanyi's retirement, they were more concerned about the ownership of the Goo Garden. Bian Chanyu sighed, shaking his head. I'm sure everyone knows what kind of person Wan Yin is. Letting her manage the Goo Garden is not a good thing. The Goo Garden not only sells goo, it also sells the ingredients that the goo need daily. Most of these ingredients are supplied by our new Kuan. Wan Sanyi is in charge of the Goo Garden and is honest in doing business, taking good care of Nu Kuan. This Wan Yin, Liang Qizhu, who was obsessed with cleanliness, shook his head. He had always hated dirty women. Hearing Liang Qizhu's words, everyone's expression turned ugly. Supplying ingredients was an important source of income for Nu Kuan. If Wan Yin changed her supplier, Nu Kuan's loss would be huge. Shunlian quickly understood what they were discussing. It was simple. The Gu Garden was like Taobao. It was Nu Kuan's main sales channel. Now that Taobao had changed owners, if the new owner was unhappy and closed down Nu Kuan's online store, Nu Kuan would cry to death. Wan Sanyi is a law-abiding person. He means what he says and makes people feel at ease. But Wan Yin is crazy and temperamental. She is unpredictable. We don't know how to deal with her. But Ling Kong also did not think highly of Wan Yin, feeling that she was a danger. The man Boyu waved his hand, and the hall quickly quieted down. He said, "Everyone's concerns are not without reason. We must quickly finalize the contract with Wan Yin. Who is willing to negotiate with Wan Yin?" Hearing this, all the elders quickly lowered their heads. No one was willing to take the blame. Wan Yin was a difficult person to deal with. If he failed to clinch this deal, he would be a sinner of Nu Kuan. The responsibility would be too great. Among the 8 elders, the calmest one was Shunlian. This was because he was certain that Man Boyu would not send him. Firstly, he was too young, and secondly, he had a conflict with Wan Yin Kai. There was a personal grudge between them, so it was not appropriate. Negotiating with Wan Yin is not easy. If I succeed in bewitching Wan Yin with my words, I should be able to gain a lot of bewitchment points, Shunlian thought to himself. He was somewhat tempted to accept this mission. Forget it. Wan Sanyi clearly knew what Wan Yin did, but he still gave the Gu Garden to her. This shows that this woman is very difficult to deal with. Before we know more about Wan Yin, we cannot act rashly. After making up his mind, Shunlian calmly raised his teacup. As expected, Man Boyu's gaze only moved back and forth between the other 7 elders. His gaze made their hair stand on end. "Elder Gongsun, you have always been a smooth talker and calculative. Go ahead." Man Boyu's gaze focused on Gongsun Ji. This chief, I was glib and stingy. I can't be of much use." Gongsun Ji was very nervous. He hurriedly pointed at Shunlian and said anxiously, "Elder Shun is young and promising. You're also a young man. You will definitely get along well with Wan Yin. How about—" Before he could finish, he was interrupted by Kong Yu's cold shout. "What do you mean get along well? I'm asking you to discuss business, not go on a blind date." Kong Yu glared at this guy. Shunlian's lips curled up. He glanced at Gongsun Ji and smiled. Man Boyu smiled lightly and said, "Elder Shun and Madam want to have a close personal relationship. It is not suitable for him to negotiate with Wan Yin. But Elder Gongsun, you are quick-witted and smooth. You are the perfect counter for someone as unpredictable as Wan Yin." After being flattered by the chief, Gongsun Ji would be courting death if he did not agree. He stood up and bowed. He braced himself and said, "Gongsun Ji will definitely do his best and not disappoint Chief." "Good, I believe in Elder Gongsun." Man Boyu smiled satisfactorily. Gongsun Ji was speechless. He smiled bitterly, but he immediately became happy again. "Elder Yuan, why don't you assist Elder Gongsun from the side?" Man Boyu also knew that this was a serious matter. He did not let Gongsun Ji handle it alone. He pulled in another elder. Yuan had directly lowered his head and cupped his fists, saying, "Yuan understands. First, send a congratulatory gift to Wan Yin in Nu Kuan's name. After Wan Yin officially takes over the Gu Garden, immediately go and negotiate with her. The faster the agreement is finalized, the better." Man Boyu said solemnly. Shunlian came down from the 5th floor and walked slowly toward the office. Wan Sanyi actually lost. Shunlian's expression was complicated. His brows were tightly knitted. He had just met Wan Sanyi. Without a doubt, Wan Sanyi was a formidable person who could control the winds and clouds of the world. This kind of person was usually extremely infatuated with power and would not easily retire unless he encountered an irresistible force. Behind the Gu Garden are the 9 aristocratic families of the Central Plains. The only ones who can control Wan Sanyi's fate are them. Shun Lian's mind moved. He gradually came up with a train of thought. Did the 9 aristocratic families of the Central Plains abandon Wan Sanyi and choose to support Wan Yin? Man Boyu is right. The internal strife of the Wan clan is too deep. I cannot be easily involved. Shun Lian turned around and returned to the training room. He began to cultivate in seclusion to increase his strength. Between the towering mountains and steep ridges, there was a small mountain village. There were dozens of thatched cottages and over 200 villagers. Because behind a village was Goathorn Mountain, this village was called Goathorn Village. The villagers here lived the same life for dozens of years. They were plain, poor, simple, and peaceful. Halfway up Goathorn Mountain, there was a karst cave. The entrance was 3 meters wide and tall. The inside of the cave was pitch black. Looking up from Goathorn Village, one could see a black hole the size of a wash basin. It looked like a rotten chrysanthemum. Every summer, the temperature in the cave would rise and the airflow would increase. There would be strong wind entering and exiting the cave, producing strange sounds. It sounded like someone was farting. Therefore, the cute villagers jokingly called this karst cave Farting Cave. That evening, before the sky was completely dark, a gust of chilly wind suddenly blew from the horizon. The chilly wind whistled and stopped at the foot of Goathorn Mountain. It suddenly condensed inwards and turned into a human-shaped monster. This monster had a snake head and a human body. The snake head resembled a king cobra. Its flattened neck and fan-like leaves were spread out. There was a golden circle circling its head. It was the golden-ringed king cobra, extremely poisonous. The golden-ringed snake demon looked at Goathorn Village at the foot of the mountain and revealed a human-like expression. It sneered for a while and turned into a chilly wind again and floated into the farting cave. Whoosh whoosh. After entering the cave, the golden-ringed snake demon shook its body and turned into a golden-ringed king cobra more than 100 meters long. Its body was so huge that the small karst cave couldn't fit it all. The golden-ringed snake demon kept shrinking its body and forcefully stuffed its body into the karst cave. The snake head was right at the entrance of the cave. The golden-ringed snake demon opened its bloody mouth and pressed its upper and lower jaws against the walls of the cave. The karst cave was already extremely dark. The golden-ringed snake demon's disguise was perfect. Even if one looked carefully, they wouldn't be able to see any abnormalities. Zhao Taian had just eaten dinner and was sitting at the entrance to cool off. Beside him was a sliced wild watermelon. The family of 3 each held a slice of watermelon and ate with mouths full of water. Dad, look, there are stars over there. So many stars. Zhao Taiyan's son was only 5 years old. He pointed his little finger in the direction of Goathorn Mountain. Zhao Taiyan turned his head and looked. He couldn't help but squint his eyes. He saw that the farting cave was sparkling with light, as if there were pearls emitting light. Zhao Taiyan rubbed his eyes and stood up. You look, there's something glowing in the farting cave. At this time, the other villagers also noticed the strange signs. Could there be treasures? Zhao Taiyan's eyes turned. He quickly called his 2 brothers and ran towards the farting cave. The other villagers were also very surprised. They all ran over to see what was going on. A moment later, nearly half of the villagers gathered in front of the farting cave. Some of them brought their families. There were old people, young adults, and women with children in their arms. What's glowing in the cave? The villagers looked into the cave. After a moment, everyone was stunned. Their eyes were filled with luminous pearls. The luminous pearls were as big as a fist. They were scattered in the cave. We're rich, Zhao Taiyan exclaimed. He was the first to rush into the cave. When the other villagers saw this, they also rushed in. A moment later, everyone entered the cave. Zhao Taiyan was very excited. He rushed to a luminous pearl and held it with trembling hands. He didn't expect that when he touched the luminous pearl suddenly shattered and sprayed out a green mist. Ah! Zhao Taiyan screamed. His body melted like snow under the hot sun. In a breath's time, he turned into a pool of thick water. Zhao Taiyan is dead. The other villagers were stunned. They didn't know what had happened. They were all stunned and frozen in place. Run! It was not known who shouted. Only then did the villagers come back to their senses. They scrambled to escape, pushing and shoving one another. At this moment, the cave suddenly closed. In an instant, all the light was taken away. The world fell into darkness. Countless screams came to an abrupt end when the hole was completely closed. Gulp! The golden-ringed snake demon crawled out of the cave and transformed into a snake-headed humanoid monster. It burped in satisfaction. Wake up from a nap and eat some fresh blood food. It's too delicious. The golden-ringed snake demon flicked its tongue and looked at the goat horn village at the foot of the mountain. Its blood-red eyes were cold and threatening. Forget it. I'll leave these livestock and let them reproduce. I'll come and enjoy them next time. The golden-ringed snake demon looked into the distance and found a direction. It then turned into a gust of cold wind and flew away. Goathorn Village was still peaceful and peaceful. Wan Yin's residence. Princess, the Fury Kuan gang has sent a congratulatory gift. The young and handsome man bowed and reported. Wan Yin was lying on a bamboo chair. Hearing this, he raised his eyelids and smiled lightly. New Kuan is the first to send me a gift. Yes. Man Boyu, this old fellow's reaction is quite fast. While others were still in disbelief that the Gu Garden had fallen into Wan Yin's hands, New Kuan had already started to move and take the initiative to befriend him. The whole northern lands will be in turmoil soon. Prices will soar. I should stock up on some resources. Wan Yin's lips curled up. His mesmerizing pink lips were full and lustrous, making people go crazy. Chapter 97. Cultivation Room. Shun Lian closed his eyes and rested, only opening them when his mind was calm and tranquil, letting out a breath of turbid air. Next, he turned his attention to the interface. Grandmaster Gu, Silver Rank 3, Special Effect, Martial Moving Mountains and Rivers, Extreme Strengthening, Grandmaster of a Generation, Vast Divine Might. Consume 1,500 Bewilderment Points to evolve Grandmaster Guam by 1 level. Do you want to evolve? Consume 4,000 Bewilderment Points to evolve Grandmaster Guam by 2 levels. Do you want to evolve? Looking at it, Shun Lian couldn't help but gasp. After entering Silver Rank, the consumption of Bewilderment Points is very fierce. I remember the last time, evolving by 2 levels consumed 3,000 Bewilderment Points, but this time the increase in Bewilderment Points required for evolution is not very high. After thinking for a while, Shun Lian's eyes brightened, and he quickly understood. Grandmaster Gu fed on knowledge and comprehension. He comprehended the 3-inch flying sword killer move. The sword intent was formed and reached the realm of creation. His comprehension was deep and unparalleled, allowing Grandmaster Gu to grow by itself, accumulating a lot more. Thus the consumption of Bewilderment Points was much lower. This is a good thing. Shun Lian's eyes shined brightly, and he laughed excitedly. Evolve Grandmaster Gu. With a swoosh, the interface shined brightly. The Grandmaster Gu that resembled a woodman trembled intensely with 3 silver stripes entwined around its body, letting out a dazzling light. The flowing light was magical and enchanting, like the sun rising from the east, filling the sky with the light of dawn. The dazzling light covered the Grandmaster Gu, forming a thick layer of light film, like a rainbow cocoon, extremely beautiful. After waiting for several days with a cracking sound, the Grandmaster Gu broke out of its cocoon, as if it was stepping on a rainbow cloud. Light shot into the sky, 5 silver stripes entwined around its chest, shining brightly, cold and threatening, emitting a vast and mighty aura, awe-inspiring and domineering. Haha, Silver Rank 5. Looking at the 5 dazzling silver stripes, Shun Lian was unable to restrain his joy, feeling as blissful as honey. In the whole of New Kuan, there were only 2 people who had Silver Rank 5 and above Gu, Man Boyu and Kongyu. Now, Shun Lian was the 3rd. Before he even asked Rumble, the familiar feeling of hunger hit him. Shun Lian was overjoyed. The feeling of hunger meant that his talent had not reached the upper limit. Not long ago, I used the incomparable genius Gu to raise my talent, and after fusing with the Tiger Guts Gu and whale breath goo, my talent has indeed increased by a lot. He hurriedly took out a jade bottle of yuan water and poured one cup after another. Surging natural primeval essence spread throughout his limbs and bones. In his aperture, the Grandmaster Goo was like an old monk meditating, breathing out the old and taking in the new. The beautiful lady flapped her wings, emitting a strange light. Droplets of snow-silver true essence were condensed and scattered like rain, falling into the bottom of his aperture. At the same time, waves of numbness came from his chest and abdomen, causing him to tremble uncontrollably. The 5 body fusion type goo were rapidly fusing under the effect of the primeval water, especially the tiger guts goo and whale breath goo. Their fusion speed was extremely fast, 10%, 11%, 12%. The higher the fusion rate, the higher the talent. It could be said that this was a virtuous cycle. The result was that Shun Lian was continuously becoming stronger. In just half a day, Shun Lian had successfully advanced to Silver Rank 4. At the same time, the Tiger Guts Goo and Whale Breath Goo's fusion had reached 15%. Evolve the Tiger Guts Goo. Evolve the Whale Breath Goo. Shun Lian did not stop. The interface flashed, and his deceit points decreased by 120 points. Following that, he felt a strong electric shock and numbness in his abdomen. The Tiger Guts Goo and Whale Breath Goo both leveled up by 2 levels and successfully evolved to Bronze Rank Level 2. Tiger Guts Goo, Bronze Rank 2, Special Effect, treating each other with utmost sincerity, surpassing Courage Whale Breath Goo, Bronze Rank 2, Special Effect, swallowing mountains and rivers, incantation. There's an additional special effect. Shun Lian's gaze flashed as he looked at the additional incantation special effect of the Whale Breath Goo, feeling extremely surprised. Incantation, according to its literal meaning, is to use the mouth to shout out the word incantation to achieve a certain effect. Thinking of this, Shun Lian was ready to move, facing forward and taking a deep breath. Incantation. With a loud shout, a formless sound wave spread out and reverberated in the cultivation room. After a long while, nothing happened. Did I understand it wrongly? Shun Lian rubbed his chin and pondered for a while, but still could not think of a reason. There's a library in the Furious Koan Gang that has countless ancient books. I'll go there and check. Actually, Shun Lian could directly ask Manboyu, but he did not want to expose this matter. After all, Shun Lian had only obtained the Whale Breath Goo for a few days, and had suddenly evolved to Bronze Rank 2. No matter how one looked at it, it was a little beyond imagination and would definitely arouse Manboyu's suspicions. Greetings, Elder Shun. Elder Shun, you have worked hard. The library was on the 3rd floor. Along the way, when the sect members met Shun Lian, they all bowed respectfully and reverently, their eyes filled with deep reverence. Elder Shun killed the Xie demon, slaughtered the old demon, plotted against Chao Cheng. He is truly a character who can cause storms with one turn of the hand. In their hearts, they counted the few but shocking deeds of Shun Lian, and the reverence in their hearts grew. Shun Lian did not recognize these sect members, and only lightly nodded his head to acknowledge them. On the way to the library, an old man with white hair had already received the news and was waiting at the door. Subordinate Gulang, deacon of the library, pays my respects to Elder Shun. The old man's face was full of smiles. Deacon Gu, you have worked hard. Shun Lian lightly laughed. You flatter me. I am at the service of the sect leader and do my best for Elder. Gulang was old and experienced. He was full of witty words and flattery. Shun Lian laughed. A few days ago, I obtained a Whale Breath Goo and wanted to check on its information. Do you have it here? Gulang pondered for a while and nodded. Yes, Elder Shun, please come in and have some tea. Please wait for a while. Okay. Shun Lian slowly walked in and sat down, following which a maid served fragrant tea. Shun Lian took the teacup and took a sip, waiting quietly. After a while, the tea was half cold, and Gulang quickly walked in with a thick book, smiling. Elder Shun, I found it. Shun Lian quickly put down the teacup and took the thick book and looked at the cover. It turned out that this was an encyclopedia introducing the body fusion type goo, and one of the chapters had a detailed introduction of the whale breath goo. Shun Lian casually flipped through the book and found that the body fusion type goo had all kinds of different forms. Rabbit ear goo fused with one's ears, turning one's ears into furry rabbit ears, with sharp hearing, able to listen in all directions, and extremely beautiful. It is especially popular and sought after by women. Horse hoof goo fused with one's legs, making one's legs and footsteps as majestic as a horse's hoof, able to travel 1,000 miles in a day without rest, and the horse's hoof has strong kicking power, causing great damage. Eagle eye goo fused with one's eyes, greatly strengthening one's vision, and has the special effect of focusing and magnifying one's field of vision. It can even allow one to see a strand of hair 1,000 meters away, especially suitable for archer-type goo masters. Shun Lian became more and more engrossed as he read, broadening his horizons and gaining much knowledge. Suddenly, Shun Lian flipped to the next page, and a goo appeared, attracting his attention. Long arm goo, fused with one's arms, allowing one's arms to have a huge increase in strength, and can freely extend one's arms, changing their length and expanding their attack range at will. Seeing this introduction, Shun Lian's brows rose, and the scene of Wan Sanyi killing Blackbeard Temple Master appeared in his mind. His arms suddenly lengthened, and he instantly appeared in front of Blackbeard Temple Master. Wan Sanyi should have fused with the long arm goo. Shun Lian's eyes brightened. The arms were the most nimble part of the human body, and had the greatest mobility. The arms could lengthen at any time and attack with incomparable speed, accuracy, flexibility, and variety. However, no one uses the body fusion type goo as their main goo. Wan Sanyi refined the long arm goo to complement his main goo. Shun Lian clearly remembered that the moment Wan Sanyi dug out Blackbeard Temple Master's heart and killed him, his body suddenly turned transparent and illusory, like a ghost without a physical body in a ghost movie. There were too many body fusion type goo, and he could not finish reading them all in a short time. Shun Lian could only restrain his curiosity, and quickly flipped to the middle page, his gaze turning deep. A moment later, Shun Lian finished reading all the introductions of whale breath goo, and a look of realization appeared on his face. Whale breath goo, when swallowing and fusing, only when whale breath goo evolves to silver rank will it have the special effect of incantation call. Incantation call is actually a support-type special effect, allowing a person to use the simple method of shouting to instantly activate the mystical power of certain goo. For example, Chao Yoqing's Inferno goo, if he had the incantation call effect of whale breath goo, as long as he shouted Inferno ball, he would be able to activate the primeval essence in his aperture and form a fireball to attack his target in an extremely short time. Not only would it simplify the attack steps, it would also greatly shorten the time needed to attack. It would be so awesome. Shun Lian's eyes shone brightly, and his heart was filled with boundless joy. If not for the people beside him, he would have started laughing maniacally. The goo that is most compatible with incantation call is a wind element goo. I need to find a wind element goo first. Thinking of this, Shun Lian shifted his gaze and raised his head to look at Gulang. Elder Shun, do you have any instructions? Gulang had been waiting at the side, and seeing this, he quickly smiled and asked. Shun Lian smiled and asked, do you know which wind element goo there are, or can you find relevant books for me? Gulang's eyes brightened, and he smiled. This subordinate has been in the library for many years, and although I don't dare to say that I have read all the books, I have read quite a lot, and know a thing or two about wind element goo. He paused for a moment and organized his thoughts. Wind element goo are divided into many types. For example, the wind edge goo, which allows a person to release wind blades that are sharper than treasured sabers. The wind pull goo, which allows a person's speed to increase sharply and is very suitable for long-distance running. The wind dust goo, once used, dust clouds will roll and cover the sky. When this goo is refined with the yellow sand goo, one can obtain the sandstorm goo, which allows one to control sandstorms with boundless power. There's also the wind blow goo, tornado goo. Gu Lang spoke without holding anything back and introduced dozens of wind element goo in one breath, with all kinds of miraculous and refreshing information, making people gasp in amazement. Shun Lian listened with great interest, but he also knew that he had already opened 3 apertures in his body and could not refine all the wind element goo. Which wind element goo has more special effects and is suitable for overall development?